All of this stuff is him saying, please, I am instructing you because it's good for you. Fear me. And fear me and obey and do diligently, and you will be able to go in and possess. It will be well with you. Remember we said earlier, all of these things he said, so that it will be well with you and your children forever and ever. So it will be well with you. So here, and this is what we're going to conclude for today, hopefully we made it clear that Yahweh desires and actually demands that we fear him, but it's for our good. If you would fear him, you wouldn't be afraid of everything else. Because if you feared him, you would also then trust him and believe in him and know him. That's really the key, that relational knowing. If you knew him, you would know how he would take care of you. You would know how he would provide for you. You would know how he would intervene on your behalf. You would know how he would intercede for you in the areas where you need. Oh, you're quick to get on the knees and pray when you have need, but are you quick to obey when you need to obey? Oh, because you want him to go quick. What about you? Are you going just as quick? And so that's really the thing. He's like, sure, what if I respond to you at the same speed you respond to me? Maybe that's kind of why it's taken so long. You ever think about that? Maybe that's a question you need to ask. The reason Yahweh's response is taking so long is not because he's not listening. He's just giving you a taste of your own response rate. Maybe that's what's going on. I don't think I've ever said that before, but I think that's kind of neat. Kind of scary, too. Good reality check there. You know, what if he responded to you in like kind? By the way, I have a friend who did that with his children once. You know, the children said, Dad, you know, whatever, and they wanted something, whatever, and he responded to them just as fast as when he asked them to do something. And they were getting all frustrated, and they didn't get it. He says, well, I'll do it, but I'll do it about as fast as when I asked you to get the thing I asked you to do. So next time I ask you to do something, if you want me to do something for you quickly, you better do what I ask quickly and respond to it appropriately.
When you know you're the same. So if they do something to you, forgive and forget. So I have an unforgiving heart. If you shoot When the darkness comes, will you be ready with your light? And when the darkness comes, will you shine so bright? When you're called upon, will you answer him? And when you're called upon, will you be ready for his call? In the new Jerusalem, when there's peace again, in the new Jerusalem, where brothers come together, in the new Jerusalem, where Yeshua shines his light, in the new Jerusalem, amen. Now that the darkness is gone, will you still shine your light? Now that you're saved, will you still pray day and night? Despite that the darkness is gone. In the new Jerusalem, when there's peace again, in the new Jerusalem, where brothers come together, in the new Jerusalem, where Yeshua shines his light, in the new Jerusalem, amen. But there will still be darkness in their hearts, and brothers will still drift apart, until the day comes. In the new Jerusalem, in the new.
All right. Chag Sameach. Awesome. If you'll all rise, and this is more for the people at home than the people here, but if you all rise, we'll sound the shofar. Amen. Amen. All right, let's sing praises to our King.
Come, let us praise the Lord and sing him a new song. Come, let us sing his praise together with the saints, with all the righteous ones. Let Israel rejoice in her Creator. Let the children of Eretz Zion be glad in their King. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Come, let us praise the Lord and sing him a new song. Come, let us sing his praise together with the saints, with all the righteous ones. Let Israel rejoice in her Creator. Let the children of Eretz Zion be glad in their King. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Let them praise his name with dancing, making music with the tambourine and harp. For the Lord takes pleasure in his people. He will crown the humble with salvation. Let the saints rejoice in this order. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Sing and dance unto the Lord. Sing and dance unto the Lord.
Arise and shine. Arise and shine. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. And the nations shall come unto thy light, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Lift up thine eyes round about and see, they gather themselves all together. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. And the sons of those who afflicted thee, and all who have despised you will bow down. Then they shall call you the city of the Lord, Zion of the Holy One of Israel. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. So arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. Oh, arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. Arise and shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee. The glory of the Lord is seen upon thee.
Praise you, Lord, you're the rock of my salvation. You I praise from shore to shore in all your creation. Let it ring from mountain tops, let my voice proclaim the tender mercies of my Lord. Yeshua is his name. Messiah of Israel is. Praise you, Lord, you're the rock of my salvation. You I praise from shore to shore in all your creation. Let it ring from mountain tops, let my voice proclaim the tender mercies of my Lord. Yeshua is his name. Messiah of Israel is he, restorer of our nation. The hope of David now we see, bringing us salvation. Root of Jesse, Lion of Judah, Judge of Israel. Now we praise you for your joy and love that never fails.
On. Oh wait, yeah, I am just kidding. Are we just doing the set? Okay. All right. Come to me.
Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, learn from me. I am meek and humble. In your heart, in your heart. My yoke is gentle, and my burden is light. Come to me, all you labor. Come to me, I shall give you rest. Come to me, all who are burdened. Come to me, and I shall give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Learn from me, learn from me. I am meek and humble. In your heart, in your heart. My yoke is gentle, and my burden is light. Come to me, all you labor. Come to me, I shall give you rest. Come to me, all who are burdened. Come to me, and I shall give you rest. Yahweh is our strength and our shield, and under His wings we take refuge. He is our God, in whom we trust. Yahweh is our strength and our shield, and under His wings we take refuge. He is our God, in whom we trust. Come to me, all you labor, stay in me. I shall give you rest. Come to me, all who are burdened, stay in me, and I shall give you rest. And I shall give you rest. To receive your love, you're gonna put us through it all to see if we fall. To receive your guiding hand, you're gonna take us through the not commanded you, be strong and do not fear. For Yahweh your Elohim is with you wherever you go. If you trust in me, I'll carry you out on eagle's wings. You're safe and sound. If only you'd fear, there'd be no time to doubt. If you trust in me, if you trust in me. Have not commanded you, be strong and do not fear. Yahweh your Elohim is with you wherever you go. If you trust in me, I'll carry you out on eagle's wings. You're safe and sound. If only you'd fear, there'd be no time to doubt. If you trust in me, if you trust in me. If you trust in me, on eagle's wings, if only you'd fear. If you trust in me, if you trust in me, if you trust in me, I'll carry you out on eagle's wings. You're safe and sound. If only you'd fear, there'd be no time to doubt. If you trust in me, 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 if you trust in me. Have not commanded you, be strong and do not fear.
Amen. Amen. That's what it's all about, trusting in Him. Father, we come before you, and we come before you because we trust in you. We trust in your instruction, your guidance, and we trust that you know what we need. And so, Father, we really are blessed, and we appreciate that you created the feast seasons, the Moedim, the Chagim, these times when we come together, even though we're today separated in virtual reality here, but we come together to meet with you, to meet with each other, to continue to learn and to refresh our minds about your plan and how the feasts teach us about your plan. And so, Father, we just want to come before you now just very humbled and appreciative. We sing, we dance, we make a joyful noise, all to express the love and overflow of joy in our hearts towards you. We ask now that you would be with us today, that you would guide and lead all things, so that all things would be to your glory and honor. As we come before you in the name above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. 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 All right, you may be seated. I find it very exciting, but also I think I've gotten so used to it. I don't ever want to get jaded to the incredible talent of the Michelle and Brianna in writing songs that we have, and the fact that we have this tremendous songs. and their harmonies and the way their voices just work together is fantastic. And the rest of the praise team, great job. We did have some technical difficulties today, but you know, technology is such a mixed sort of thing. It's a mixed blessing. It can be a curse at other times. And so today we had a few little hiccups, but that wasn't something we could even identify why it happened. But for some reason, that song just did not want to play through. But that's okay. Some of the online people were like, well, I guess that's the part where we're all supposed to sing along because we know the words. That wasn't a bad idea. Appreciate that. All right, so this is the time here in the congregation where we take up the prayer and the praise of the members. If you are here and you want to just let me know, I'll go ahead and, the people that are here are just the people on the cameras and on the soundboard and the praise team, but if you have anything that I need to know about. Otherwise, Manny is going to go ahead and get settled in on the chat room desk there so he can note down the praises and the prayers. I guess I'll start off just a little bit to give him a few minutes. So, of course, we want to pray for those that have been seeking our prayer since the last time we gathered. Of course, we were together last night, but not everybody's able to make it on Tuesday nights as we were going through our Torah portion cycle. So it's always nice when we can have more and not less. Look, if we were at the feast event, if we were still able to be, we would be doing these things all day and all night and just having a great time. And so, you know, we're looking forward to Sukkot when we can hopefully do that as we have in the past. And if Yah wills, that'll be what we'll be doing. So plan for that. We may even have more people than usual because all the people that didn't get to come for this one may decide they need to come for the next one, which would be great because if we can get more people to register and be there, then we should be able to possibly have a situation that we have going on the property resolve itself. So it may be a numbers thing. Okay. So, while I'm giving Manny a little bit of time, why don't I just deal with the Omer count? So today is what day of the Omer count? Day 6. If you were in the Torah study last night, you know we counted day 6. So we had 2 events, both with the same date. After sundown, the tradition is that you count the Omer at sundown for the next day. So after sundown, it will be day 7. Okay, and so I just want to remind everyone while they're getting the prayers typed in. I don't know if we have... Rick, do you have me on the camera? Will that show up like there? Is that good? All right, so we do have this sheet, the Omer count sheet. It's something that you can print or download and just reference on our website. At the moment, it's on the Passover website, on the website. So go to the mtoi.org and go to the Passover page, and then they'll see the Omer count, or there's something that says counting the Omer. We may end up moving that. We're hoping to launch our new site, which will look like the one we have now, but with some tweaks to it. It'll be some adjustments. So when we get the new site launched, it may be on a page that's for Shavuot. Because like right now on our homepage, we have a line that says what day it is and how many days. By the way, when we count the Omer, we should be also saying things like 44 days until Shavuot is fully come. Because it's about keeping track of how far you've come with anticipation of where you're going, which is a great metaphor for everything we're doing in this walk. We're keeping track of how far we came, up to this point, how far we've come, and then we're looking forward to where we're going. So today is day 6, 44 days till Shavuot's fully come. Now there are 49 days worth of things to do on the counting the Omer because the 50th day is Shavuot, and you'll have plenty on your plate for that day as it is. So we're going to count the 49 days up until... I have it broken down on the sheet to the 10 Commandments, the fruit of the Spirit, the Beatitudes, and Psalm 119's 22 stanzas. So today we're in the middle of the 10 Commandments, so this is day 6, so we're up to the 6th commandment, which is you do not murder. And what you're supposed to do, again, I'll remind you every time we come together, what you're supposed to do with this sheet is you're supposed to look at the item for the day, and that's why you do it at night, so you have the start of the day, so to speak, at night. And ask yourself the question, what about this instruction or this item that we're looking at, how does it apply to me? What about it applies to me? And how am I supposed to be applying it? Now you might think, well, I never really think about murdering anybody, but there's ways that we can do that with our words and with our tongue, and we can lash out at people, etc. We can kill people's reputations, we can kill their spirit, we can kill them emotionally. So just, you want to ask yourself, how do we do these things? Of course, you can look at Matthew chapter 6 and see how Yeshua refers to it, okay? And so then we understand these kind of things. And it's very important that we are keeping that in mind, that as we are looking at these things, it's all about, at least in this ministry, it's, I'm sorry, that would be in Matthew chapter 5. I knew I'd said the wrong chapter. Let me look that up. We've done so much in the chapter 6 recently that I have chapter 6 still locked in my head. But in chapter 5, where he talks about, of old it says you do not murder, and then he explains more depth of understanding. Which is funny, because a lot of people in the mainstream think that he came to do away with Torah, and yet I find that everywhere he speaks, he deepens it. Doesn't make it any easier, and if anything, it makes it more clear of the depth of it, so it makes it harder. Because you may be thinking, as he was talking to the Jews of the time, he said, oh yeah, you may be thinking, well, I didn't kill anybody. Oh, but you wanted to. Well, I didn't sleep with her, or I didn't sleep with him, I didn't commit adultery. Oh, but you wanted to. And so he says, well, the desire to do it is just as problematic as the actual action. And so this is important. So we'll get to the fruit of the Spirit. You'll see things like love, joy, peace, patience, etc. And you'll say, okay, how does this apply to me? What am I supposed to be doing with this? How do I apply this concept? And so that should give you something to think about during the day. So give you something for 49 days to do. When you get to Psalm 119, Psalm 119 is designed to match up with the Aleph Bet, the 22 letters of the Aleph Bet, the 22 from Aleph to Tav. And so it's written in 22 8-verse stanzas. There's 176 verses. And so you'll read those 8 verses and ask yourself things like, well, how does this apply to me and how do I apply? But also, what kind of heart and mind did David have that was being expressed in these words? Because we know that we should be desiring to emulate David's heart, because we're told that he has a heart like unto Yahweh's. And there's nobody else that he says that about anywhere in Scripture. And when you read Psalm 119, you can certainly see why he would say that. And so you may want to emulate those thoughts. In other words, can you say the things David is saying in those 8 verses and mean them from your heart? Can you feel that way about the Creator and about his law that David was saying in those verses? Okay, this is a good thing to be doing, because we understand traditionally that Shavuot is when the Torah was given. And so we're headed 49 days down to that 50th day, the receiving of the Torah, and having our hearts and minds ready to receive. Israel wasn't ready. They hadn't prepared their minds and their hearts. They'd just been released out of Egypt as slaves. They were making a journey to the mountain. Moses was going to now go up on that mountain and then come down after his 40 days. And so they weren't really emotionally, they weren't in their heart moved and prepared to receive. And which is why as soon as they started receiving, they panicked and said, oh, hold on. Moses, tell you what, let him talk to you and then you talk to us. They weren't ready. Are you ready to receive? And so we're headed towards Shavuot, and you should be looking at your heart and saying, how is my heart? Is it ready to receive? Amen? All right, so you can, now for those of you that don't have printers, you can just always download it onto just open it up on the website and just look at it there every day. So you should have that. Okay. Manny, you ready? All right, go for it. All right, everybody who's on the chat, please stop chatting except if you're posting a prayer or praise.
Test, okay.
I know that's hard because you guys are isolated, you love each other, you want to chat. So reach out to each other and chat. I mean, there's no reason why after Sabbath service is over, after Holy Day services are over, any day during the week or any time, you can get on the various social media interactive type of ways, like Facebook, has video, Zoom is available, Skype is available. Just make a phone call. Here's an idea. Use your phone to make a phone call. There's a strange concept. Okay? Go ahead, Manny.
I have a hard time with that because I'm not an initiator.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let me explain that. It's important. That was good that you brought that up. I have often, because I've done a lot of personal training, a lot of development, life coach type stuff, it's not profiling, it's not negative, it's helpful to break people up into categories, okay? So you understand people better if you understand certain things that they can fall into categories. We did that with the colors, right? The color code stuff. And so it helps you to understand yourself, helps you understand others better. Well, sometimes you can break things into more simple, like 2 categories. So in life, people fall into one of 2 categories in this particular area of life, which is the way they interact with each other. Not half the people necessarily, but there's one choice is that you are an initiator. The other choice is you're a responder. Okay? So, initiators pick up the phone and call people. Responders are glad that somebody picked up the phone and called them. Now, if you are a responder and your friend is a responder, or all your friends are responders, which happens a lot, especially with the ladies, because ladies are designed more to be responders, well, guess what? Everybody's at home thinking, nobody loves me, my friend doesn't want to call me. But then I go, well, did you call them? Well, of course not. Well, they're thinking the same thing about you. So we're going to ask, especially under the circumstances with this COVID-19 and lockdown and everything else, that you recognize that weak area in you. And it is a weak area. If you are a responder and do not know how to initiate when it's needed, that's a weakness. I'm not saying it's a weakness to be a responder. I think it's great to be a responder. Because responders, if you go to an initiator and you initiate to them, they don't always respond well. They don't know how to be a responder. But if you are sitting there wanting something to happen, you need to spark the initiator side of you to pick up that, to initiate. And the other person on the other side as a responder will be so happy you did. Okay? And so overcome those things. You need to stretch and expand beyond your comfort zone. So, if you are an initiator, you need to be more responding. In other words, respond in a more warm way and be glad people are doing and initiating things. If you're a responder, you need to initiate more. Okay, that's just making it very simplistic. And I noticed this many, 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 many years ago because I was obviously an initiator. And most of my friends were responders. And I would get so mad and frustrated with them why they would never call me. And then I realized I lost half my friends that way because I would eventually say to them, what's wrong with you? How come you never call me? And they say, well, if you're going to treat me that way, I'm not going to call you even ever. But I just realized it was not their, because they were always happy I called. Okay, you guys know Uncle Bobby, my best friend, doesn't call me very much because he's much more of a responder. But he always liked when I call him, and I'm much more of an initiator. So you actually accept that part of the roles of your relationship. There's always roles in a relationship. Look, if you're married, there's roles of the husband, there's roles of the wife. If you're in any kind of structured environment, whether it's in ministry or a business or anything, there's roles of the supervisor, there's roles of the people who are below that supervisor, roles of people above. Everybody has a role to play. And so in a relationship, just accept that if you're the initiator, you are the one expected to initiate. Don't be mad that they're not. But if you're a responder and the people you're dealing with are also responders, nothing's going to happen until somebody picks up the phone. Okay, so do that. Be in it, take the initiative. Okay, go ahead.
For that actually was a life changer for me when I learned that from you. And it made a lot of sense with a lot of the relationships in my life and even in my family and the closest friends that I have. And it really made a difference, sadly, with family that kind of just, they were, I guess, responders too, so they were always angry with me because I never reach out, and I'm just not that, it's not my default. I don't know to call.
Just recognize that there's a percentage, it may even be a fairly big percentage of the people that you get frustrated with who have not stayed in touch with you, or that you're reading into it that they don't like you or they're mad at you. Usually that's the responses. Responders think that people are mad at them when they don't hear from them. What did I do? I don't know why they're not contacting me. Because they're responders. At least a high percentage of them, that's the problem. They're not mad at you. They're probably thinking you're mad at them because you haven't called them either. I've seen that happen often. Look, my wife, I had those conversations way in the beginning of our relationship where she would get frustrated with some of her friends, and then I had to explain to her. I said, well, first thing I would ask her is, well, have you called them? She was like, well, no, of course not. I was like, well, don't you think they may be thinking the same thing? And she was like, oh, okay. And then you realize 2 responders are sitting there depressed thinking each other doesn't like each other. Instead of just picking up the phone and realizing nothing's wrong except that you're both responders. All right, go ahead.
Beautiful. Unless you're a responder like me, in which case I don't care. You call me a year from now, I'm just as happy as last week to see you and talk to you like, hey, and I pick up right where we left off. But most people aren't.
And I think a lot of responders are. It depends on how blue they are. I mean, the blue part gets emotionally more hurt. If we're going to go use the colors part. So if you're a blue responder.
Good point.
Okay, because you could be any color and be a responder, any color be an initiator to whatever degree, but although reds are pretty much always going to be initiators. But the thing is, it depends on how emotionally you responded to not being contacted. See, some people have the capacity like you do to be like a puppy dog. I don't care when you show up. As soon as you show up, my tail is going to wag, and I'm going to be all excited. I'm glad you called me, you know. Others are going to take it more to heart and be like, well, how come you didn't call me? You didn't call me.
Oh, boy.
And start, you know.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. Laura Powell, prayer request for pain from a fall and other health issues. Melissa Rogers, prayers for my granny. She fell this morning. Olivia and Janet Hoffman, someone spoken, but kindly pray for discernment and wisdom for our family. Michelle Perez, prayers for all in need, and praise Abba for all of you at Beth Shalom and MTOI worldwide. Our Nasi, Steve Bergson, and all extended Mishpacha family, and abundantly humbly grateful for all that you do. MTOI Urbana, Ohio, prayer for Hannah as she has to go and see a surgeon. She has 2 herniated discs, one pressing on a nerve and the other on her spinal cord. Ouch. Tom Lasardo praises for the feast days, inventing many combinations of matzo sandwiches, matzo pizza, and lime-flavored tonic water. P.S. Yuhu is kosher. Chatone Jenkins, praise Abba and Yeshua for allowing us all to be gathered together through MTOI's leadership, although in a virtual condition. James Perry, pray for my uncle in Kentucky who has no power, and for my family, for Abba to open their eyes in Torah. Musalam, praise report. I'm thankful for Yahweh for the job he has given me. The boss from the job said that it's at my own time, and so I will be able to keep Shabbat and feast. Praise him.
Amen.
Catherine, praises for being healthy and safe. Still working from home, praying for the truth about what is really going on with this shutdown and virus. Judy Urachak, praise report. Hannah's COVID test returned negative and cough is gone. Praise Yahweh. James Brooks, praise Yah. I no longer have to work on Shabbat. Amen. Carry on worthy prayer request, asking Abba to make a way for me to communicate with my oldest boys, Damien and Lucky as well as give them the ability to see the truth, prayers to keep the body safe as well. James Perry, prayers from my uncle in, I think I've read that one already. Let's see. Michael Bendix in prayer request, my wife and I, to be able to move from Europe to U.S. so our children can join the MTOI Academy and be with you all. Amen. That's from Michael and Marianne. Kathy Iskia, prays for Abba, Yeshua, and Rabbi Steve's messages, forgiveness, resolution, and reconciliation and restoration, using it relationships in the world and covenanted relationships, hodu hodu. Trisha, praise Yah, I have electricity and internet, and I'm joining you all on live stream. Amen. M2I Urbana in Ohio, prayer for Brian as he is considered for a promotion, and also for his children. Their mom is maybe moving an hour away. This would make it harder for their shared parenting arrangement. Daryl, hello, Mishpachah, please pray for my understanding. The count of the Omer, the count has 7 Shabbats, getting 49 when tomorrow being the 5th day of creation, and tomorrow be the 7th day of the Omer. And believe it or not, I think that's it. If I missed any, it was because the chat was going crazy, but either my chat is frozen or they're listening and nobody's typing anymore, so.
Okay, well, that's okay. I do want to add something that had to do with something you brought out, which is there are people that are happy now that they're able to keep the Sabbath because of their jobs are shut down, etc. This is an opportunity for all of you that have had Sabbath-keeping work issues. Until the job opens up again, you've got time to refocus and replan how you're going to work with that. In other words, figure out what jobs you can change to. Be prepared to change jobs. There will be lots of job openings because lots of people are going to try to do a job shuffle once this is over. A lot of people are thinking about work differently while they have time to think about it while they're unemployed. And so some businesses won't even be open again. Different businesses will open, etc. And so bear in mind, this is an opportunity to make adjustments, to fix that problem. Look, the situation sort of forces most people, although I have to say, when we drove here today, the streets were very crowded. I don't know where everybody was going, but the streets were very crowded. Of course, Food City and the other parking lots over there were very full, so I know that a lot of people were going to get food, but still, there were a lot of cars on the street. So, but in the meantime, if you were working at what they're calling a non-essential type of career, so you're home and you don't have a place to work, this is the time to be planning how you're going to adjust so that you don't have a Sabbath-keeping, feast-keeping problem at your job. I remember years ago, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again. I had a lady come up to me, and she wanted me to pray for her son because he had a real hard time finding work that didn't require Saturday work. And I said, well, what kind of work does he do? Well, he works in retail. I said, that's the problem. There are a lot of businesses and a lot of careers that do not work weekends. Forget about just working Saturdays. They don't work weekends even. They work Monday through Friday, that's it. And, some of them are actually on 4-day weeks, and they don't even work that many days. They work 4 days, like Sunday through Thursday or something like that. We had some people have Amazon shifts like that. The problem is not being frustrated with the industry. See, I don't understand the mindset of people that want the system to change for them instead of them adjusting to the system. Well, I want the retail people to let me have off, but they're not going to, so try changing careers. This first really hit me in a somewhat strong way. I was watching, any of you remember Nightline? That started with the hostage crisis, with the Iranian hostage crisis back in the, I believe in the 70s. And so Nightline was on, and they had on two ladies that were throwing an absolute fit because the Catholic Church wouldn't let them be priests. Now, I don't care what a church or denomination's rules are. I don't understand why somebody wants to force that group to change. There's many other places they could go where they could be allowed to be priests. Go there. Why is it that you want to insist on forcing the change of the system? The system is the system. And so if you understand that the world you live in, remember the name of this teaching that we're doing is Peace in what? In a world not his. You are not fixing the world. They are not going to adjust and change to fix correctly. Yeshua is going to come with a rod of iron and fix everything. And the reason he has a rod of iron is because not everybody's going to be thrilled with the idea. And so recognize you're supposed to be in but not of the world. Okay, so you're here. Recognize the world. Figure out how to function in it the best you can and keep your covenanted life at the same time. That means you are going to have to change. Nobody likes to change. Well, you need to change. Some of you hate your jobs anyway, so stop protecting the job. It's amazing how quickly someone loves their job as soon as they find out they may lose their job. Even though they've been whining about it for years, how much they hate their job. Oh, I wish I could change jobs. Well, there you go. Now you got a good reason to change jobs. No more whining. Shouldn't be whining anyway. You either accept where you are or you make the adjustment. Why would you whine? If you're still where you are that you don't like, that's your fault. So you accepted your choice was to stay. So stay and stop whining. If you don't like it, then leave and stop whining. There's nothing productive about having that negative emotion. You're going to bring everybody around you down. You're going to be yourself always down. It's going to affect your health and everything else. So now you're on lockdown to whatever degree. You're on, we're on stay-at-home orders. So take full advantage of that. I was talking to somebody the other day whose son is incarcerated at the moment. And they told me that while he's been incarcerated, he has not only gotten his bachelor's and master's, he's working on his PhD. Because he's got nothing else to do. He can focus on those things. And guess what? Right now, you are on stay-at-home orders. Some of you think that means it's time to totally redo your garden. That's fine. Redo your garden. But if you have a more important thing like your life career choices, why not work on that? Your garden isn't going to pay the bills. Because I'll tell you what, the parking lot at Lowe's has been full like crazy, and Home Depot, because everybody's working on their landscaping and their lawn. And there's nothing wrong with that. You may want to get outside and get some exercise, but if you've got more pressing matters, you've got all the time. Because some of you say, well, I can't change my career because I work 60 hours a week. Well, now you're not working. Where's your excuse? Well, I'd like to study more. Well, now you're not working. Why aren't you studying more? Well, I like to listen to teachings. I don't have the time. Well, now you have the time. All your excuses have been taken away. Are you taking advantage of the time? Are you redeeming the time? That's my prayer during prayer time here, that you would redeem the time. Take advantage of the time. There are some relationships, husbands and wives, that are actually going to fix because they're being forced to spend time with each other and deal with their stuff. There are some relationships of parents with children that are going to fix because they're going to have to figure it out. Because they're going to have to spend time with each other. This is really, if we look at it the right way, a tremendous opportunity. Tremendous opportunity. Okay? Let's not squander it. This opportunity will not last forever. We're going to have to go back to whatever the world's going to look like when this is over. A little bit different probably than it was before. But we're going to have to go back to whatever the new normal is, and you will have lost this time. Now, some of you think it's great because you've caught up on binge watching Netflix, and that's your thing. And you've caught up on all the shows you've ever wanted to watch. I don't know if that's benefited anything. But wow, what could you have been doing with this time? There's going to be more. We're not done yet. Take advantage of the time. Pray more, study more, work on you, work on your family, work on your relationships. Take full advantage of the time. All right. Anyway. All right, so I think that's going to cover it for anything else I would add to the prayer, so why don't we just go ahead and pray. Father, we come before you, and we're going to begin, as we always do, by recognizing you as our King. As the creator of all things, having full sovereignty over all that exists, that there's nothing that exists that's outside of your will, and that, Father, we fully trust with our emunah, our faith and our trust, that everything that happens, you either cause it or you allow it because it serves your purpose in some way. Whether we can see it or not, we accept fully that you are fully sovereign. And so, Father, we come to you with awe and respect and reverence, overwhelmed with the privilege of the relationship to come to you and share the joys in our lives, the praises that we give you for all of the things, small and great, that you do in our lives every day, the small miracles, those little things that remind us that you're aware, that your awareness has you then expressed in those little miracles, that you care about us, and that we can always count on and rely on that relationship that you are there. So, Father, we thank you, we praise you, and we give you all the glory and all the honor. Father, we also come before you with our needs, and we've laid them before your feet. You've heard the unspoken as well as the spoken prayers of the body here, as you do of the body everywhere. You know what is in our hearts and what our needs are even before we ask, but you desire that we ask. And so we come to you completely confident that you hear and answer every prayer, but we also accept that your answer may not be the answer in the form that we were looking for, but that we must accept that your answer is always the right answer. So, Father, we want to thank you. We want to praise you as we submit ourselves to you and trust in you in the name above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. 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 Okay, Brianna's going to come up here with Marty now and lead us in the liturgy.
No Veshamru. Baruch Hu, Baruch hu et Yahweh HaBaruch. Baruch Yahweh HaBaruch Le'olam Va'ed. Bless Yahweh who is blessed. Blessed be Yahweh who is blessed forever and ever. Ma Tovu. Ma Tovu. Israel. Yahweh Eloheinu, Yahweh is one. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever. V'hafta. And you shall love Yahweh your Elohim with all your heart, with all your being, and with all your might. And these words which I am commanding you today shall be in your heart. And you shall impress them upon your children, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up, and shall bind them as a sign on your hand. And they shall be as frontlets between your eyes, and you shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. Amen. V'hafta l'recha chamocha, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Amen. Amen. You may be seated. I know we say this almost every week, but it's a tremendous blessing to have, again, Marty and Brianna be able to lead us in the liturgy. Otherwise, you would have to hear me, which was done for years. So it's what a pleasure it is to have them do it, and the anointing that's there is fantastic. All right, Hamaseh v'hatrumah, the tithes and the offerings. This is a holy day. This is the last day of unleavened bread. If you have not fulfilled your obligation according to Deuteronomy 16, 16, and 17, Deuteronomy 16, verses 16 and 17, that you are to go to the 3 pilgrimage feasts, this being the first one, and not come empty-handed. You still have today to do that. We have donation buttons on our website, and you could always put a check in the mail, and then have that done, for tomorrow. But you could have made sure that that was done. So you can do that still today. Of course, we do want to appreciate all those that are obedient and are doing as Yah says, because we want to make sure that we are praying for that. Maaser, which is the tithe, and the Trumah, which is the offering. So today would be a day that we're focusing on the Trumah, the offering. Okay? And this is the blessing that we would recite. The purpose of tithing, as you understand it, is to teach us to put Yahweh first in our lives. The purpose of the offering, which I don't have it on the slide there, is to teach us to appreciate the abundant blessings he gives us. Because he says that we are to give that offering based on that blessing. Blessed are you, Yahweh your Elohim, King of the universe, who commanded and made promises to us concerning the tithe and the offerings. May you open up the windows of heaven and pour out a blessing that cannot be contained as we walk in these mitzvot, these commandments. Amen. Amen. Now, as you know, we don't take up a formal offering at all, but that we just remind you of these things, and we appreciate that. Okay. If you would like to support the ministry in ways that don't cost you any more money than you're already spending, because maybe you just don't have a lot of money, but you'd like to support us even more, we are part of 2 Amazon programs. Okay, 2 Amazon programs. We are Amazon affiliates, and we are part of the Amazon Smile program. Now, those programs I'm just informing you about. I know it's a holy day because you need to know that these things are available. And I have you all together to tell you. We're not asking you to do this today. As a matter of fact, on the slide it says, not on Shabbat. It should also say, not on a holy day, because a holy day is a Shabbat. I'm not asking you to change the slide, Marty, but I'm just reminding these people. Okay? But if you go to our website, the mtoi.org website, and look for the Shop with Amazon icon or the little link so you can click to it, it will take you to Amazon, and they will know we sent you, and they will give us a referral fee based on sending you there when it's not a holy day or Shabbat. So don't do that now. If you are desiring to, this is another program we're part of, it's called the Amazon Smile program. You can change the slide. Okay? You would go to smile.amazon.com, and at that link there will be a place for you to choose a nonprofit or ministry to support. We are listed there. Just type in the 4 letters MTOI. They will then register us as the one that you want to support with your purchases, and you would then do your shopping by going to smile.amazon.com and not regular Amazon.com. And then they would give us a donation based on your purchases. So none of this would affect you. It just affects what they will do with your purchase money and give a percentage to us, either as a referral fee under one program or as a donation on the other, okay? And but you can still sign into your Amazon Prime or whatever else you might do. It doesn't affect you on your end at all. Just remember that if you do the Smile program, that you need to go to that link every time you go. You don't have to go to our website. Just type in and go to Smile. Save that as a page, your smile.amazon.com page. The other program requires you always to go to our website first, click the link, and then go to Amazon. So it's one extra step, okay? All right, so that's enough of that. Okay. A reminder also, if you have an Android and you're using the Amazon app on your Android, if you sign up for the Amazon Smile program, after you have signed up on the web, you can now go to the app on your phone and go into the settings of the app, not the settings on your phone, but the settings on the app, and there's a little toggle you can turn on the Amazon Smile part of the app. Okay, but it will recognize that your account is now part of the program once you've signed up on the website. As far as I know, the Apple phones don't do this yet. Okay, now let's go ahead and get to the announcements. I do want to welcome our guests. All right? I'm sure that we have guests online. I know we have over 500 computers logged on, okay, which, is a tremendous amount for a holy day, and so we really appreciate that. I think the stay-at-home part has given some people an opportunity whose congregations or places that they go don't have a stream or a way to access to, give us an opportunity to share with them. So we're appreciative of the opportunity to be a blessing to you, however you came to find us, all right? So we do want to welcome you. As children of Abraham, we should be exemplifying hospitality. And so all of you in the room on the chat who are regular attendees should help the new ones feel welcome. Those of you that are new, please respect that you are in a group that exists Holy Day service. Or if you come on Shabbat, on a Shabbat service. And we ask that you would respect the fact that this is not just an open public forum, but it is a service that you're a guest at. So think of it as you would if you walked into an assembly, physically walked into a service that was ongoing, how you would behave. And generally, you wouldn't just jump up and interact with the people at the podium and interrupt the flow of the service and all those other things. So please be respectful of those things. We do have leadership in the chat. That would be Kurt Meyer, who's our Shamish, and we also have Rob Wyatt, I'm sure, in there, who is a Shamish in training. Okay? And so let's go ahead and we give them respect. Manny is also in there taking down, the prayer requests when it's that time, and also your comments and questions after the sermon time, okay, after the message. Okay, now, the next slide is day 6 of the Omer. You can skip that. We already covered that. All right, we covered that. Okay, so Torah study. All right, so every Tuesday night we do have the Torah study. We had one last night. So 8 o'clock Eastern time, we do cover the weekly Torah portion. We're doing the one in advance of that Shabbat. A lot of congregations, not all, but a lot of them do the Torah portion on Shabbat. It has been my opinion that while that is fantastic, because I think that's why we do it on Tuesday, I think we should do the Torah portion. Especially for new people to go through it. It's an incredible life-changing experience to actually learn the Torah, the first 5 books, and understand their context. However, I think that there's a limited value to it because generally a Torah portion, I can think of almost nothing except maybe last night's Torah portion, so just so it kind of happens to serendipitously be last night, is the only Torah portion I think that completely covers a topic of Torah. And that would be kashrut. Okay? Leviticus chapter 11. But otherwise, any piece of Torah, you need to jump all over the place to truly understand it, whether it's Shabbat or the feasts or whatever it is. It's not encapsulated in a portion. It's talked about to some degree in a Torah portion, but you have to go here a little, there a little, line upon line, and go all over the place to truly understand those topics. So that's why I feel like it's important on Shabbat when I have a bigger opportunity with more people to reach them with an understanding of how the puzzle pieces fit together, to do that on Shabbat. But I think the Torah portions are important, so we do them on Tuesdays. By the way, we do not believe that there's any mandate anywhere in Scripture to do the Torah portion. Okay, we see it as a tradition that has a tremendous amount of value. Because we did have a little bit of a heated discussion years ago in the MTOI leadership over whether or not it is mandated to do the Torah portion on Shabbat. And the answer is, I decided anyway, after hearing all the arguments, that there's no commandment to do that. So we decided to allow the local congregations affiliated with us to do it their way that they feel that they need to do it for their own understanding. Okay? So some do and some don't. But I think everybody should, at least on a weekly basis, at one point or another, cover it. So we do it on Tuesday. We also have a program for the youth. We call them the YMTOI program. YMTOI stands for Young Messianic Torah Observant Israelites. It has its own webpage, ymtoi.org, the website for this. And the program for the children is called Parsha Pearls. Okay, the Torah portion is known as a Parsha. And so we have what we call Parsha Pearls. And every week on Sunday, so you have a whole week to go through and prepare with the Torah portion, it's posted for the next week. Okay, so on Sunday it'll be posted for next week's. So this one, Shemini, was posted on Sunday. Okay? And so if you're at home, this is a tremendous program to work with your children as far as their homeschooling, Torah studies, or just the fact that you're now having the stay-at-home orders that we're all under, etc. It's a great program. If you're doing Sabbath school on Shabbat, it's a program that we normally have our children when we're here as a group. They will go off and do the Parsha Pearls program. It's for children 5 to 17 or 18, but really it could be for any age. We have it broken up into two separate presentations. One is called Katan A. Katan in Hebrew means small, okay? And the Katan A1 is for ages 5 through 8. And then the Katan B is 9 through whatever. It includes the Gadol stuff too. Gadol means big, Katan means small. Gadol would be like the 13 to 17 or 18-year-olds, okay? And so it's a fantastic program. It's very robust, full of a lot of stuff. It's free. That's the main thing, okay? It's free. Like everything else we do here is free. All the teachings are free, etc. You can download it as a PDF on the website. It has in there a discussion of an aspect of that week's Torah portion, some fill-in-the-blank questions to see if the children understood the material, crossword puzzles, and we have mazes, word searches, coloring pages, a craft that you can design something or build something and make something that is related to that week's Torah portion so that it would be a way for the children to connect more with the material because they're actually going to make something that they'll never forget that they made something connected with the Torah portion. There's flashcards from 3 or 4, what do we got, 4 Hebrew words usually, sometimes more. 4 to 8 Hebrew words. I'm sorry, I got the Rebbitzin in front of me. This is her program, so I get to ask the questions so that I'm really clear on it. 4 to 8 flashcards, so you can print those, cut them out, and you can have your children learn some Hebrew. Also, there's a song often on there as well that the children can learn a song. I mean, it's kind of a kid's goofy song, but for the little ones, they love it. They'll enjoy it. They'll learn the song. Okay. If you're older, you're gonna be like, man, that's hokey. But you know what? You're not a little kid anymore. You don't remember how you used to love those little, kids type songs. And the songs are all sung by my daughter Brianna, so you get to hear her singing them. And if there's instrumentation, she actually had to compose and figure out the chords for it. And she's done that as she plays it either on the keyboard or the guitar or whatever. She played it on the ukulele, so mostly keyboard, but so you get to hear that as well. Okay? So that's a great program. I can't endorse it strongly enough. And again, I'm endorsing a program that we don't get any benefit except that we're providing you with something because it's for free. We put in a lot of hours to put this program together. Rebbitzin works probably, a good 40 hours plus a week just on this program, not to mention the regular additional feast programs, as well as the special editions that come out for feast. And there will be a special edition, Shavuot edition, coming out in a little while, right before Shavuot. Okay? And so there'll be, it'll be an additional thing. Now, if you are new to the program, you can find the previous ones archived, so you can catch up to where we are in the book of Leviticus now. So you can get through, the Genesis and Exodus, and you can get caught up. Okay. Okay. Now, we have our meetings this week. So on this Sunday, the leadership is meeting. For those of you that are not familiar with us, we do have an MTOI leadership. MTOI, if you don't know what that is, it stands for Messianic, Torah, Observant Israel. I picked that name because I felt it was the answer to the question people always ask me, which is, what are you? I mean, how would you describe yourselves? What would you call yourselves? Well, I said, let's see. We believe in Messiah, and we're Torah observant, and we're Israel. Israel as according to Scripture, not Israel as according to 1948 and a piece of property out there. It's the Israel of Yah. And so, MTOI, and we have a leadership that meets every month, sometimes more than once a month, depending on, like lately with this coronavirus, we've tended to meet every couple of 2 weeks to kind of keep up on things. The leadership gets together to have iron sharpen iron, to discuss issues that come up in the local congregations, to hear things that are coming out from headquarters here in the bigger picture. It's not a bunch of yes men who are just there to just say, Rabbi, we think you're awesome, whatever you say goes. It's a bunch of people who have our understanding that this ministry's motto or our sort of catch sort of phrase that says what our vision is to work together to serve the body effectively. Effectively according to what Yah thinks is effective, not according to what we think is effective. Okay, how can we work together to serve the body? And that's what the leadership comes together with, that question burning in their minds and their hearts is, can we work together and serve the body? All right, and so this is really important. And then, of course, if you're a local congregation that's affiliated with us, and let's say something comes up in your congregation that you don't know what to do, maybe you didn't handle it yet, maybe you already handled it, and you're not sure you handled it, in a right way or correct way, you can bring that up at the meeting and ask the abundance of wisdom in the group and say, this situation came up, I didn't know what to do, so this is what I did, I don't know, was it the right thing? Or they'll say, I haven't done anything yet, I don't know what to do, what should I do? So it's a fantastic place for especially the younger, and by younger I mean newer at ministry, not younger necessarily by age, but the people that are newer at this to get counsel on how to do it. The biggest problem, in my opinion, I'd say just about the biggest problem causing confusion in the body is untrained people without good counsel leading things that the body is a part of. In other words, they're leading groups and sometimes misleading groups, or now their hearts are right, they're trying to get it right, but sometimes they're still too connected to their former stuff. So they end up being, giving a Baptist spin or a charismatic spin or a Catholic spin or whatever it is, right? Or a Methodist spin, a Lutheran spin, all those denominations. Because it's the filter that they understand. So it comes across as Messacostal, Messabaptist, Messa whatever. And so when you come in this group, there may be somebody who speaks and the other guys go, hold on, you're looking through that particular denominational point of view. That's where you're messing up. That's where you're struggling. Because there's still some of that in your system. Okay? And it's hard to pull that completely out of your system. And if you don't get it all the way out of your system and you don't keep addressing it and have a high awareness of it, it can metastasize and then go back like a cancer and then go right through your system again. You have to always, it's kind of like an alcoholic or anybody else with an addiction has to always know that it wouldn't take much to get them back off in the wrong direction. And so you have to have that heightened awareness that you are a recovering Christian. I don't know how else to put it. And I'm not mocking people who are Christian. I'm saying the system has confused you. The system has lied to you. The system has not done you a great service in a lot of ways. Now, you did learn a lot of things that were actually correct. So I'm not picking on the system completely, but there's a lot of things that are hard for you to let go of because it was not correct. And that's how you were raised. Okay? So we do have those meetings on this coming Sunday. We have the leadership in South Africa meeting first because they're 6 hours ahead of us. So we'll meet with them at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then the full leadership, which will include some of them if they can stay on at noon. And these meetings go a long time. They run about, the full meeting runs usually about 4 hours. Just so you know that the leadership is there to spend as much time as necessary to hear from, we have about 20-something men in the meeting representing people in Canada, people throughout the various states here in the U.S., South Africa, et cetera. We have people from all over the place in these meetings. All right? And so, and we talk about the questions that come up. And you've gotten and received some halachic decisions that came out of that meeting. Now, I'm going to use the opportunity to mention this is just scratching the surface. In other words, what the body really needs is a Jerusalem council, a Sanhedrin. They need a body that is made up of leadership within the body that can truly pierce through the confusion and the zillion different ways of looking at everything and come up with some halachic decisions for the body that is showing wisdom and not power and control, but wisdom. Now, somebody on the live stream referred to me as Nasi. I want you to understand where that term came from. Okay, in the Sanhedrin, oh wow, I thought I had it on my screen. I don't have it on my screen anymore. I was going to read it to you. Give me 1 second. Because I pulled up a definition for it so I could just read it to you. Okay, so in general uses, the Sanhedrin, okay, without qualifiers, normally refers to the Great Sanhedrin, which was composed of the Nasi, who functioned as the head or representing president and was a member of the court, the Av Bet Din, or chief of the court, who was second to the Nasi, and then 69 general members. And so because I'm a leader above leaders, not above meaning I'm above these, but I have a responsibility that these other leaders look to me for, that would be like the position of the Nasi. Okay, which also serves very well for those of you that really just can't get over the call no man rabbi thing, which I do have a teaching on that does explain all that and why people have got that all confused. And you can look that up, on an In Focus. But if that really is a stumbling block, many of the people that have had that challenge, and now we don't have many that do, but the many that do feel very comfortable then to refer to me as Nasi, okay? Or the presiding president over, and that, with MTY, that would be my position, okay? And so, in case you were wondering, somebody wasn't calling me a Nazi, okay, just so you know. But in the live stream, someone referred to me as our Nasi, and Nasi would be that person who is the representing president of the bigger group. And remember, in the correct vertical structure, this is really critical that you hear this coming out of my mouth. Going up the structure is not more power, it's more responsibility. Okay? Going up the structure doesn't mean more power. It means more burden of responsibility. That's all it means. It is not what people generally think. I want to get to the top because it gives me more power and more authority. Well, you will have more authority, but with that authority comes much more responsibility. Because it means that more things that happen will be your fault if they're not right. And it's not about things being to your glory and honor if they are right. If they are right, you get none of the credit. It's all about the Father. So think about it. You're taking a position where anything that's good is not you, and anything that's bad is you. Anybody want that job now? Okay? Anything that's done right, you get no credit for. Yeshua wanted no credit for anything that was done right that he did. He said, whatever you see me doing, it's not me, it's the Father. I'm just doing what he told me to do. So for all of you that think that going up the chain somehow gets you more prestige and more, you're looking at this wrong. Yeshua washed the feet of his disciples to show you that the higher up, actually the lower down. in the right understanding. So please hear that from me. So when we talk about the Nasi position, it simply means I have a higher level of responsibility for the people that are in the organization in the responsibility for the decisions that are made. Okay? And so it's not about power or any of that other stuff. Okay. So hopefully that, I don't think I've ever said it that way before, but I want people to understand. If you go up the chain, anything you do right will be absolutely not to your credit. The Father will give you credit for being obedient and being a vessel, but there's really no public credit. Okay? All you did was be obedient. But if you do it wrong, you will get all the blame. There's a double judgment on the teachers. There's a double judgment on the leadership. And so that's really important. Okay, so now that I scared everybody, we're having our leadership meetings on the 19th, okay? So this coming Sunday, all right? So just be ready for that. All right. I think that's going to cover it. Okay, so on Saturday the 25th, so let's get to that one. Do you have the Rosh Chodesh slide? Okay, there it is. So on Saturday the 25th, okay, on that Shabbat, we're also going to have Rosh Chodesh service for Rosh Chodesh of the new moon of Iyar. Okay, the new moon of Iyar. And we're going to do that. For those of you that are live streaming with us now, we'll say it again on Saturday, a week before we're doing this. It's going to flow straight from the service, from Shabbat service, into the Rosh Chodesh service. There won't be a separate event. There won't be anything like that. We're going to try to do it around 5 o'clock, which I should be able to just keep an eye on the clock and make sure we finish the Afterburn in time to just start the Rosh Chodesh service, okay? So we're going to go straight in to the Rosh Chodesh service. Somebody here remind me to make sure that I bring the silver trumpet out and have it available out here somewhere so that I don't have to go run and get it, so we can just start right into the Rosh Chodesh service. All right, so that is, for those of you on live stream, we will stream Rosh Chodesh at about 5 o'clock on Saturday the 25th, all right, with that Shabbat service. Okay, so that's going to conclude the announcements. Let's go ahead and bring up my children. Are they here? I'm going to bring my children up. I'm going to do a blessing of the children. If you are at home, bring your children out. Fathers, go ahead and get your hands on the heads of your children. I said heads, not necks. I'm going to grab my children by the neck. Okay? And we're going to go ahead and ask a blessing on the children, if you'll all rise for that. Extend your hearts and hands towards the children. Father, we come before you, and we go ahead and separate out these children and we ask that you would bless them. Father, we ask that you would open their eyes and ears and hearts, that they would receive you. We ask that you would create in them a relationship, but they would know that they know that they know that you're there and that you care and that you can be always counted upon in their life. Father, help us that are raising them to raise them in the way that they should go so that they would not easily depart, that, Father, we would teach them of your ways and that they would walk in them. Father, that they would grow to be strong men and women of Yisrael and lights to the world. So, Father, we ask these blessings as we separate out these children today in the name, above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. And together we say, Amen, Amen, Amen. Thank you, children. All right, you may be seated. No, go ahead. Do what you got to do. They're changing out some batteries on the cameras here. I'm going to get ready anyway. If you have a phone, go ahead and turn that off. Turn it to silent or whatever you would need to do to not be interrupted during the teaching portion here. You know, we were talking about that Jerusalem Council. Wouldn't it be nice to have a cohesive and coherent leadership decision on things like the calendar, about certain animals, whether or not we can eat them or not, or all the different rules and regulations regarding Sabbath keeping and whether this is appropriate or that is appropriate, or how do we do this? You know, we have technology today in the 21st century that they did not have when Moses was given these instructions. They didn't have electricity. They didn't have gas, heat and burners and things. They didn't have cars they didn't have a lot of the stuff that we have, the internet and all that kind of thing. And so we are really struggling because we don't have a council to help give us halakhic understanding. The reason for Deuteronomy 17 is exactly this: to have a group of leaders who the people can come to and the people can get answers. And not have 6,700 of these out there with 6,700 different answers. And so we are struggling. Now, we may not get this until Yeshua shows up, but at least we can make an effort to see what Abba might do to bless it or not. Okay? All right. Now. Okay, we ready, Kirk? We're good? Marty, all the cameras reset and good to go? All right, because the timer's moving. We good? Okay. All right, so today we are in part 5 of Peace in a World Not His. Peace in a World Not His. And we've been talking about, from John 14, when Yeshua said, "My peace I give to you, my peace I leave with you." He says, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives." This is from John 14:27. "Do not let your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." So we've been talking about that because, after all, we are in a world that is not his. That doesn't mean it's not his in the ultimate sense of it. In other words, he's taken his hands off of it. He's allowed it to be not his world right now. He is working with some of us in the world, but we're not to be of the world. And we read that also in John, as we were reading through John chapters 14 through 17 at the beginning of this teaching. And last week we started dealing specifically with worry. We're dealing with the idea of worry. Because after all, being in the world and not of the world has lots of things that could potentially cause you to worry. And worry steals your peace, and this is all about peace. The news media, you want to stop worrying? Stop watching the news. That'll eliminate a whole bunch of worry. Also, stop watching all the alternate news. Those guys may make you more worried than the regular news. I'm not saying they're wrong. I mean, some of them are actually giving you the truth where the other group might not be, but it's going to cause you to worry. Just remember, knowing about what's really happening isn't going to change anything. necessarily, because you still need to walk this out. And if you walk this out, you'll get to where you need to be. So I'm not telling you not to watch news. I'm just telling you that if it's disturbing your peace, and a lot of you can watch the news and be fine. Some of you, it really disturbs your peace. Well, then maybe you need to watch less news. So let's deal with worry today. We're continuing, because to be worried is to have something to cause you to be anxious or uneasy because you're concerned about the potential of something dangerous happening, or you're concerned about something uncertain. There's a perceived threat of some sort or some sort of undesired consequence. And the world will give you this as a regular part of your worldly diet. As we are here in the world, that's what you're going to get a regular flow of. Let's look at Matthew chapter 13. Now, bear in mind, as Peter said in 2 Peter, I feel that although I'm going to share with you things that you already know, Peter says, I feel that it's my duty, as long as I'm still alive in this fleshly tent, that I stir these things to remembrance, as a reminder, because you need to know them, even though you already know them. And so, yes, we're going to cover some things that you've heard many, many times. But the question is, are you applying it? That's really what it comes down to. Matthew 13 and in verse 18, you then hear the parable of the sower. Anybody heard that before? Hundreds of times. Well, let's focus on the worry part. When anyone hears the word of the reign of the kingdom and does not understand it, then the wicked one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is that sown by the wayside. Now, let's start off with problem one. You're hearing the word and you don't understand it. Now, I know you're going to be completely, at this point, realizing that I'm doing this ad nauseum. I'm nauseating you because I'm going to talk about, you ready? Structure. Ephesians chapter 4, and the fact that they're supposed to be teachers because you're going to need them. Why would a person hear the word and not understand it? Everybody hears the word and doesn't understand it to some degree. That's not the problem. The problem that happens here is that then the wicked one comes. So it's not just because you heard it and understand it, the wicked one's going to come. It has to do with what do you do once you realize you don't understand it. Are you seeking to find yourself a teacher? The fivefold ministry, guys, that Paul says you will need until the time of the body coming into the fullness of the completeness of Yeshua himself. The unity. We're not there. You still need these guys. So when anyone hears the word of the kingdom and doesn't understand it and doesn't then seek to find the answers to understand it, let's just insert that. I'm taking license there. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Then the wicked one will come and snatch away what was sown in his heart. This is that sown by the wayside. And that sown on rocky places, this is he who hears the word and immediately receives it with joy. So they're excited. They receive it with joy. Yet, he has no root in himself, but is short-lived. When pressure or persecution arises because of the word, immediately he stumbles. All right, so the first one didn't understand it. The second one, it seems like they have an understanding and they're excited about it, but because it doesn't have the time and the patience to allow it to take root, then the pressures that come and the persecution that comes will cause the person to stumble. What does this normally look like? You get excited, your bubble was burst, Yahweh disturbed your peace, you started seeking and asking and knocking, and you found something. You found Shabbat. You found out Christmas and Easter were not the correct feast, and there were other feasts. And you found out that you found out a bunch of great, and you were excited. And what did you do? You shared it with your friends and family members, expecting them to be excited. And then they gave you pressure and persecution. What's wrong with you? Don't you know? Blah, blah, blah. You're going to lose your salvation and blah. Didn't all of you hear all that? And that could cause some to stumble. That's why I tell everybody, get excited about this. The joy part's not the problem. Just keep it to yourself until the roots grow. You don't need to go blabber this to everybody just because you're excited about it. That's not a secret. It's just for your own protection. Understand that you could receive enough pressure and persecution that you'll stumble. It takes a while for roots to grow. The people that are newest are the people at the highest risk because they don't have time for the roots to grow. By the way, another sort of addendum to this is, and I've told this to people, and sometimes they listen, sometimes they don't. I don't know your capacity, so if you have the capacity, ignore what I'm going to say. But not everybody has the capacity to fire hose this stuff down their throat and just put it in an IV and download all of it all at once, okay? A lot of you need to hear it, process it, meditate on it, start applying it, and then get another piece, hear it, digest it, process it, start applying it, and then get another piece. You understand what I'm saying? But some of you will binge watch 47 videos in a row because you just can't get enough of it. Well, I'm telling you, some people that try to do that who are not, and it's not a negative on you, just they don't have the capacity to process that much that quickly, they will stumble. It's too much of an overload to ask the body, the mind, and the heart to change that much all at once. So I would rather you listen to something more than once, more than 3 or 4 times until you understand that one teaching. You get it, you understand it, right? The first issue is not that they didn't understand it, so you should understand it. Remember, we talk about not the 4 levels of understanding, but my 4 levels of why I do the teachings. Number 1, that you understand it. Number 2, so that you can do it. So you should listen to every teaching so at least you can do phase 1, phase 2 before you move on to anything else. There's no reason to, but I need more, and that's that Gnostic, I got to know everything. Well, why don't you just understand it first so that you can do it and then go to the next one? Patience. Pray. We need in the body, we need a little bit of patience. Of course, step 3 is that you can now defend what you understand and that you're doing, which means that you understand the typical approaches that people might have to try to knock what you're doing, to attack or persecute you and tell you how wrong you are. And of course, the last level is that you're able to teach it. All right, so you understand it, so you can do it, so you can defend it, so you can teach it. I would recommend that you listen to a teaching until you keep listening to it, until you understand it. And if you don't understand, then what do? You call the teacher. You email the, well, don't email the teacher. That would never work. Call the teacher. Or email the administrators of the teacher and ask for a phone call. Because I can't explain what you need in an email, even if I was getting the emails. And you all already know, a lot of you, that I get too many for me to actually keep track of everybody and respond. But I want to answer your questions if I can get a chance to do it. If you email, media at MTOI and Manny gets it, Manny will ask me the question and he can respond to you. Okay? Or he'll have me answer it and I'll respond to you. But at least that way we get it done. But first you need to listen to the teaching enough times to have made the effort to understand it so you can do it. All right? And then, if you do that, you're giving the roots a chance to grow. And then the persecution and pressure won't be a problem. Because he said you're going to have persecution and pressure. No matter how you approach this, you're going to have persecution and pressure. But at least if you have the roots, you're not going to stumble. Okay? He says, and that sown among the thorns is he who hears the word, and the worry of this age and the deceit of riches choke the word, and it becomes fruitless. So you've got thorns and stuff, the vines and thorns, because it's not just thorns. The thorns don't choke anything, but the thorns are on vines, when you picture that. And it's the vines that wrap around and choke things out. And they also cut you at the same time because of the thorns. And so what's causing a problem? Excuse me, let me just take another sip of water here. And Marty could edit that out. Or not. Okay. So what is the deal with the idea of the thorns? What's causing the problem with the thorns and things being choked out? Well, if you've already have an abundance of worry or things that you are chasing in the world, it doesn't leave room for the word to come in and to take root. In other words, you haven't cleaned out enough space. So don't just always think about how, I had the word and then worry came in and did. Well, but these are things that you already had a propensity to be worrying about. These are things that you tended to worry about. And also the deceit of riches. In other words, the conflict of leaving room for what Yah wants because you're too busy going after what you want. So it's not just deceit of riches like, I want to be rich and I want to be wealthy. Well, no, it's the I want. I want is the idea. What you think is going to make you happy. Let's just change that from riches to the deceit of that you're going to seek after happiness your way. True happiness is going to come from Him, from His ways. So if you have already in your system an abundance of things that you worry about and things that you want and desire that you're actively pursuing with all of your effort, where is the space for the word to be sown? It's going to be choked out and you can't bear fruit. It's like having grass that's full of weeds. If you don't do anything about the weeds eventually will choke out the grass. And then the grass can't grow and flow there, right? But the weeds were already there. They didn't just show up afterwards. They were there. So you have weeds essentially here. You've got worries, that's weeds. You've got, this deceit of, if I seek after these things, it'll make me happy. I mean, why else do people seek for riches? Because they think with the riches, they could buy happiness. Riches will make me happy. I'll be able to buy the things I want, and then I'll be happy. Really, that's one of the things, if you're a personal trainer, you're a personal developer, like the life training things, you try to help people to understand what is the underlying true motivation. Nobody wants money because they want money. They want money because they want something that they think money will give them: power, fame, stuff, security, joy, love, whatever. They think it will give them something. They don't want the money just for money. They think the money will get them something. That's the deceit. The deceit of what the riches will get you. If that's what your weeds are all, now pay attention, because some of you think, well, rabbis taught this before. I've never taught this before. It's the first time I'm teaching, so pay attention. It's the weeds of the deceit of riches. It's the weeds of the worry that do not allow space for you to have the word be sown and take root. It can't. You have to clear all that other stuff out. There's no room for what He's trying to give you. There is no room in Yah's. We're told to take the mind of Yeshua, Philippians 2:5, and let that mind be in you. There's no room in that mind for worry. There's no room for that mind for deceit of what will get you the things that you think you want in life. All of that comes from above. We don't worry. Why? Yeshua told us that in Matthew chapter 6, and we read that whole thing about do not worry about this, that, and the other thing, right? Because your Father knows you need all these things. So that's a weed that needs to come out. There is no thought of that in Yeshua's mind. His mind has no thought of worrying about the things of the flesh and the world and what you may think you need. He has total confidence. Whatever He needs, the Father will provide. So there's no room for that in your mind either, if you're going to let His mind be your mind. Same thing with the deceit of riches. He said, and we didn't really go back far enough in chapter 6, but he says, I think we quoted it very barely, but lay up for yourself treasures in heaven. Don't worry about the treasures of this world. That's the deceit. See, now we're in Matthew 13, the same book of Matthew Yeshua said earlier in chapter 6, right, that flows through to Matthew 13. He said, do not lay up for yourself, verse 19 of chapter 6, treasures on earth. In other words, don't make the effort to seek after the deceit of riches. Don't lay up for yourself treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break and steal, but lay up for yourself treasures in heaven, where neither the moth or rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart shall be. There's no room to, we have many verses. If you listen to the heart of the matter, many of you have. I know it's 64, teachings, but still. If you listen to the heart of the matter, how many times did we talk about in that teaching that you were to lay up these words in your heart? Those are verses we read, right? We quoted. That Yahweh tells you to lay up these words in your heart. Well, if your heart, though, is on, he says, where your treasure is where your heart is. Well, if the treasure is the deceit of riches, where is the heart? There's no room to lay up His stuff in your heart. Your heart's already focused and full of things. Those emotional attachments. And so then we end up with this worry thing. This is where I say, peace in a world not his is the name of the teaching. Well, you're not going to have peace in this world that's not his if you're going to focus on things the way the world that's not his focuses. They focus on this riches that is actually a deception. And you allow yourself to be susceptible to that deceit, into that deception. You fall into that trap. And so you also worry. He says, and the worry of this age. What's the worry of this age? All the stuff going on in the world that everybody else is worried about. You want people to talk to you about your belief? How about showing that you're not worried when everybody else is and them going to you? Why aren't you worried? And you say, because I have the peace that was given to me by Messiah. What is that? Something he just gave it to you? No. He says, I do not give it to you as the world would give. How would the world give it to you? It'd be like if I said, I'm going to hand you this Bible. Say, I'm going to give you a Bible, and I go and I hand it to you. That's how the world would do it. They would literally, physically hand it to you. He says, I don't give you peace that way. I'm going to have you go through a life where you learn to trust me. You learn to have my mind. You learn to see that the fruit of obedience and covenanting brings peace. Then you shall have received, because you'll understand where the source is, how it comes, what brings peace. Oh, no, we want it just given to us. So when somebody says to you, well, why aren't you worried? He says, because I have peace. Why do you have, what kind of peace? Well, my Messiah told me, my peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. Oh, how do I get that? By walking this out, by trusting him, by coming into covenant. And then you receive, as a fruit of all that, the peace that goes beyond understanding. That's how it works. Continuing here in chapter 13 of Matthew, and he says, again, we'll read verse 22. That sown among the thorns is he who hears the word and the worry of this age. So all the things that would worry everybody else shouldn't worry you, but it worries the people here in verse 22. And the deceit of riches choke the word, and it becomes fruitless. Now that sown on the good soil is he who hears the word and understands it, who indeed bears fruit and yields. Now, bear in mind, he didn't say it in verse 23, but it's hinted. If they are understanding it and bearing fruit with it, then they're not having the problem of it being without root, right? They're not having the problem of it being choked out. So this is the way I was just explained it in my own words. I said, so they're going to bear fruit, and the fruit is going to yield what? Peace. He says, and what it's going to yield also is 100-fold, 60, and 30. What if that's also referring to things like peace? He says, those who understand it and bear fruit, it's going to yield you 100-fold, 60-fold, even 30-fold peace. You know, the name it, claim it guys want you to think that that's stuff. You're going to do these things, and he's going to give you 100-fold, 60-fold, and 30-fold money, abundance, wealth. What if he was talking about peace? Because, if you go back to chapter 6, he's talking about treasures in heaven, not treasures down here. So why all of a sudden you think he's changing his mind about what he's talking about? That he's now talking about treasures down here? He said, but you're going to have those things that you're laying up in heaven 100-fold, 60-fold, 30-fold. And down here you'll have peace. You won't have that worry. You won't have the deception that you're susceptible to in verse 22. He said, because you're going to understand it. Now notice that he said, you're going to understand it, and indeed it bears fruit. In other words, there's a word that's missing there, a little phrase. You're going to understand it, and you're going to do it, and indeed it's going to bear fruit. Because understanding it doesn't bear any fruit. Understanding it and doing it bears fruit. Which is why some of you are trapped, frozen in study mode. Oh, you're understanding stuff and learning and understanding stuff, and you want to share with everybody what you understand, but are you doing it? Because really, you don't understand it till you do it. I've told you that over and over again. You should know this from your own life experience. If I took you before you actually kept Shabbat and tried to explain to you what Shabbat really feels like and does and everything else, you would never understand what I'm talking about. You cannot explain what it feels like to take this day and focus it the way we do on Him. How do you explain what that feels like to you? The peace it gives you, the things that it does for you internally and with your relationships vertically and horizontally. You can't explain that. You can put words. I'm not saying you can't put words to it, But the other person will still not get it. You can't get it unless you do it. You just can't. You could come back from your first time keeping the feasts, whichever feast it is, you go and you keep the feast and try to explain it to all the people who didn't go. Let's say you go to a congregation and you were one of the only ones that went to keep the feast with the bigger group, and then you come back and try to explain it, and they can't receive what you're telling them. They can't imagine it was that good as you're making it sound. How could it be that good? Well, they weren't there. You were there. You know what it felt like. So you can't really transfer that information. So verse 23 is saying, look, if you are good soil, you will hear the word. And actually, if you know what, why don't we just change that to Shema? Then we're not missing anything. He says, you will Shema the word. That means you're going to hear it and do it and understand it. And actually, if you put it in that order, I like that order a lot. Because some of you want to understand it and then do it. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't understand how, where, when, okay? Those kind of things. What to do. It's the why that all of you struggle with before you want to do anything. The only why you need is because he said so, like any good parent. Yahweh was the first one to say, you need to do this because I said so. Because I'm the Father. This is the key. So he says, and those who Shema the word, they hear it and they do it and understand it, which is going to help bring the roots in. See, once you understand the why, the roots really start to go down. And you're not going to understand the why until you do it. The understanding comes with the doing. You got to do it, then you'll understand it. He says, those people indeed bear fruit, and they yield some 100, some 60, some 30. Now, what fruit are we talking about here? Well, the churches want to tell you it has to do with wealth. I think it has to do with love, joy, peace, patience. You're going to yield the fruit. The 9 aspects of the Ruach. Maybe that's what it's talking about here. How about if that was increased 100-fold or 60-fold or 30-fold in your life? How much difference would that make more than if I just gave you 100-fold more money? If I gave you 100-fold more money, you would just have all the same problems in a different tax bracket. You'd have a nicer car to drive to your problems in. That's it. It wouldn't change the internal issues. If you are a depressed person, how many wealthy people, especially famous people, end up putting a shotgun in their mouth and killing themselves or drug overdosing and everything else? It didn't make them happy to be famous and rich. You are still going to be you, just with a lot more money. And if know what money does and wealth does? It simply takes whatever you have and brings it out in bigger abundance. So if you already had problems, they're bigger. If you already were good, then it's bigger. You have a chance to do more good or do more harm or do more personal stuff. It's just going to give you more ability to, it's almost like a way to, like a magnifier for whatever's already there. So if you haven't fixed the inside stuff, the abundance financially isn't going to make your life any better, probably make it worse. Because it's a magnifier. It gives you more ability to do more of whatever it is that's already inside of you. Oh, it's going to change my life. And not unless you change your life. The money doesn't change your life. It just changes your zip code. It doesn't do anything else, maybe. If you move or something. It's not going to change your life. You're still going to be you. So I'm thinking that the sum 100-fold, 60, and 30, the bearing the fruit, it's the fruit of doing what? Doing the word. So what is the fruit of doing the word? Wealth and abundance coming out of your ears? Money and stuff? No. Peace, patience, love, joy, all that stuff. That's the fruit. No more fears, no more worries, no more tears and concern. You have full emunah and trust in the Father being fully in charge and that everything's going to be okay. I could give you a ton of money. It's not going to, you know what, all the rich people right now are not necessarily sure if they're over 70 or 80 years old and they've got a ton of money, they're not necessarily not afraid of this coronavirus killing them. Their money is not going to protect them at all. Do you know, Rebbitzin had seen pictures recently from right here in Chattanooga. Some of the wealthiest neighborhoods got destroyed by the tornado that came through. The money didn't help them, did it? Their house still got destroyed, just like the person in the trailer park. The trailer park house, the rich mansion, just as destroyed, and everything in between. The money did not protect their house. It still got wiped out. If they were in it, they still got killed, whether they were in a rich house or a poor house. The money didn't make any difference. But when these things come and happen, if you have the Shema that you're doing with the word, you have peace. You're not afraid of tornadoes. You're not afraid of the world events. You're not afraid of the coronavirus. You're not afraid of pandemics or earthquakes. You're not afraid. Now, it doesn't mean that you act foolishly as if, okay, callously disregard because I'm not afraid, but you just don't have the fear, the worry. We had a lot of phone calls at the beginning of this whole pandemic thing from people that were absolutely panicking. And I'm not picking on you if you did. We're still in one of these types of dirt here. We're dealing with these types of ground in ourselves. And we're seeking to grow into, okay, so how do you take bad dirt? Let's start from the beginning. So we have the first kind is the kind by the wayside. Okay? So the parable of the sower, when anyone hears the word of the rain, etc. Okay, this is what's sown by the wayside. So that's stuff that's not even sown. It's kind of like you take it, you keep it in a box nearby, but you don't actually bring it into you. It's sort of sown by the wayside. Or it's like it's sown on the road. It's not even meant to be like where things grow. So you're not even like ground that's even tilled. This is ground that's just, it's the wayside. So what do you need to do first? Well, we need to start tearing up the ground, making it able to receive. And then the next thing is the rocky places. Well, then we got to get those boulders out of there and all those rocks out of there. And then we start getting to the vines and the thorns and get all of that out of there and the weeds. And now you got some good soil. You know, we're during this sort of lockdown that we're on, you got a lot of good time available to you to start. You know, a lot of you are doing this in the physical world, right? You're out there in your yard, and you're tearing up your yard, and you're putting gardens in, or you're putting your lawn in, and you're doing all this stuff physically, in the flesh, so to speak. All right, so when you're done and you're hot, and you're sweaty and everything else, go in the house, take your shower, get all cleaned up, and then sit down and do the same thing internally. Till up the ground. And by the way, what else makes ground good? You might need to put fertilizer, and you might need to put other minerals and things into that ground if it's deficient in it. In other words, you need to feed the ground. Okay, you need to feed the ground. Because what does the fertilizer really do? It's bringing the nutrients and the minerals into the ground. So let's just not make that graphic metaphor in some way, but it's about feeding the ground. So make sure that you're feeding the ground. So how do you do that? You listen to teachings, you read the word, you meditate and pray on the word, right? So you nurture that ground. So part of it is actively getting stuff out of the dirt that doesn't belong there, and part of it is putting stuff into the dirt that does belong there, and then patiently, look, when you make your garden, does the stuff grow the next day that you just planted? No. It takes time to grow roots and to get kind of going, and you got to water that ground with the water of the word in the internal ground, right? You got to water the ground. You got to keep making sure that the weeds aren't popping back up. By the way, when you take the weeds out, does that mean you never have to check for weeds ever again? That stuff pops back pretty easy, doesn't it? You got to stay on top of it. How do we have peace in this world? You need to turn up your awareness level of all the things that steal the peace, and your awareness level of all the things that bring the peace. He's telling you right here, this parable of the sower. It's not a lot of verses. Go and read it over and over again and ask yourself, okay, just like I talked about with the Omer accounting, like we're going to look at, say, these things on a 49-day basis, and we're going to say, what about this applies to me? Those of you who are watching this teaching may not know what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter, okay? But you're going to be looking at something, an aspect of the word, and say, does it apply to me, or how does it apply to me, and am I applying it? So here you're looking at the parable of the sower. We could have added this to the 49 days and said, okay, let's look at the different types of ground. and say, okay, am I doing anything that's like wayside ground? Is there anything that I need to do to tear that up and make it more ready to be good ground? What about rocky ground? Do I have rocks that need to be torn out of there and need to be dealt with, etc.? What about weeds and thorns? Do I have a problem with that going on here? Is it choking out the word? What's going on with my dirt? Or am I just going to sit there going, well, I'm good dirt. I'm great soil, man. I'll just, receive it. I'm looking at that 100-fold right now. I mean, you guys can do the 30. I'm looking at the 100. This is foolish thinking. You're going to yield whatever you're going to yield. Make the effort and you have a shot at the 100, but what you got to do is you got to do the doing. It's two aspects. It's just like the Torah. Torah has what? Two aspects. Do not and do. That which you do not do and that which you are to do. The same thing here. Stuff that needs to be gotten rid of and stuff that needs to be put in. Take stuff out and put stuff in. So you have to get out all of the wrong thinking, all of the wrong emotions, all of the wrong understandings, so that there's room. Some of you focus so much on the latest whatever, whether it's the shape of the earth or the calendar or whatever. You get something you obsess on, or the coronavirus. When this came out, some of you watch 87 hours a day of coronavirus stuff and you're not doing anything else. Are you leaving room for the word? Now bear in mind, I do pay attention, to what's going on with the coronavirus. But when I do it? I do it when I sit down to eat, so I have time to do it. I don't do it when I'm doing my other stuff. I want to make sure that I'm not crowding out time for the other things. I want to make sure I'm aware. Maybe something's happened. Maybe the laws have changed. Maybe all of a sudden lockdown is, before we got the lockdown, I had to pay attention to find out when we were going to go on the lockdown. Would we be able to broadcast from here? Would they shut that down? So yes, I had an awareness. But some of you are putting it into a 24/7 awareness, and you're in that because you're emotionally still in that fear place, that worry place. And so you're just constantly stirring that up. But I think this is an incredibly important parable for us to be focused on with the worry. Now, I know it does talk about just the word worry there in verse 22, but it's just one aspect of understanding that this is of the world, right? I said peace in a world not his. The world that's not his focuses on this deceit to bring happiness and joy, the riches. The world that we live in, is all kinds of full of pressures and persecution. People will persecute and pressure you about anything. It doesn't even just have to be about religion. If you try to do anything that steps out and away from the crowd, if the crowd is financially poor and you're trying to get more wealth, they will pick on you. If you're at your job and you try to elevate up the chain and other people are not willing to do that or know they'll never get there, they will pick on you. Anything that you do to try to elevate yourself in any way, you start doing life coaching and try to improve your life in any way, people will persecute and attack you. The crowd doesn't like when you step out from them. Whatever aspect of your life, if you start trying to be healthier and everybody around you, is not very healthy, you try to eat better, you try to exercise, whatever it is that you're trying to do different than the group that you normally hang out with, the world will call it. Some of you think, well, I don't hang out with the world. Well, you do. You spend enough time with people in the world. And you have those influences from the world. You start to step out from that, they will persecute you. It's not just about Torah observance. It can be any aspect of your life that you decide to do differently. And they will mock you, they'll tease you, they'll ridicule you, they'll do something to give you pressure. So realize how that all plays out. So this is the world that you are in, but not of. And there's no peace in that. If you become of, you don't have the peace. That's one of the measures of whether or not you're of the world. If the world is all freaked out and you're freaked out too, well, now you're of the world. You're doing what they're doing. You're supposed to not be of, just in. But as you act like they act and feel like they feel and think like they think, you're also of, not just in. Remember, Yeshua prayed that we would not be of. He didn't say that because he prayed we wouldn't be. He just prayed that we wouldn't be. That we would make the effort to identify and understand what would make the difference between being of or not of the world. In the world, you will have challenges. He says that in the world there's challenges and struggles and all this other stuff, but you are not. You need to have peace in that world. You're here as a journeyer. You're journeying through the world, But you should almost think of it from like back in the days remember when Teflon came out, it was all a big deal how nothing stuck to Teflon. And then you'd have politicians that they said they were like Teflon because these charges would go and nothing would stick, or different people like, we had that one mobster guy, they called him the Teflon Don because they had all these charges, nothing stick to him. They finally got him, but okay. But the idea that nothing would stick, that's what you need to be. If you're not of the world, it's like having a Teflon shield. It's called Torah. Nothing that the world throws at you will stick. You don't get any world on you. You don't need to go and get your, let me pull it out here. You don't need to get like your sanitizer from worldly stuff and every day nothing will stick to you. I'm not saying that about the coronavirus. If you're touching things, you should use something like this. But I'm talking about when it comes to the spiritual matters. You can journey in a world and walk through it without any of it clinging to you or sticking to you. That is most important in terms of behaviors, emotions, mindsets, thinking patterns. You journey in the world and you will pick up, if you're not careful, if your Teflon isn't strong. How do you get a good, strong Teflon armor? Well, go to Ephesians 6. Look at the armor of Elohim, right? But how do you get that good armor? You're in the Word as good ground, putting on all these things, nurturing the roots, pulling out all of the weeds and everything else that needs to come out of there so that there's nothing to grow in your garden. Nothing will stick to you. It doesn't have any way to go. That's what you need to have, is that protection. Then you can journey in the world and have no issues. That doesn't mean they won't persecute you, but you have no issues. Doesn't mean there won't be pressures, but it's okay. Because now you have what I always call mind over matter. You don't mind, so it doesn't matter. Because you have the mind of Yeshua. And the mind of Yeshua doesn't involve itself in that stuff. So that mind makes that stuff not matter. If you have his mind, let me rephrase it now. If you have his mind, it doesn't matter. That's going to be my new mind over matter. Manny, you can make something for that one. Okay? Spiritual mind over matter. If you have his mind, then the matters of the world don't matter. Okay, if you have his mind, then the world's matters don't matter. That's your spiritual mind over matter. If you have his mind, then the world's concerns don't matter. You need not be concerned about it. I don't know the right way. I just worded it 14 different ways. Man, it's like, could you just pick one? Please just pick one so I can quote you right. I'm trying to figure out how to make it as short a phrase as possible. Okay, maybe I'll try this. If you have his mind, the worries of the world don't matter. Okay, that'll make it simple. And we'll call that spiritual mind over matter. If you have his mind, and you can even put a little quote to Philippians 2:5, a little reference. Let this mind be in you. Okay? That's your spiritual mind over matter. Because he walked through the world, and nothing they did really mattered. He allowed things to happen. Things were supposed to happen. Nothing anybody did stopped what he was doing, interfered with it. He accomplished everything. He, at the dying moment, on the stake, said, I have completed what I was sent here to do. Nothing stopped it. I got everything done. Can you say the same thing in your life? Nothing stopped it. I got everything done. I was brought into this world you were brought into this world to accomplish certain things. You were, all of us. You were brought into the world to accomplish things. Can you confidently feel at any moment, in case you don't know when your life's going to be over, to be able to say, I have accomplished what you gave me to do? So what has he given all of us to do? All of us have the same responsibility, and then we all have certain things that others don't have. We have our own individual things, but we all have one thing in common. Our responsibility is to shema the word and bear the fruit. All of us have that one. Now, some of us have other responsibilities. Some of us have responsibilities as parents. Some of us have as husbands or wives. Some of us have responsibilities in our careers and other things for other people and stuff. But your one thing that we all have in common is to shema the word and bear fruit. It's a covenant. And so, can you say, I've done that. I am doing it. I'm continuing to do it. So that at the end, whenever that any moment comes, you're okay. That's very important. I can't emphasize these things enough for people. Okay, let's go to Philippians 4. Okay, we're going to read a couple of verses here. Philippians 4. We'll begin in verse 4. Rejoice in Yahweh always. Again, I say rejoice. Now, bear in mind that he's talking to people that are living in the world. They're not of the world, but they live in the world. And so, because after all, the world doesn't always have joy. And he's telling people to rejoice. Let your gentleness be known to all men. The master is near. So we need to be gentle. I know I'm guilty of this all the time. You can come across not gentle. What is one of the aspects of the fruit? Gentleness. So we got to bear that fruit. Let your gentleness be known. So how do you do that? It's by your actions. You're not walking around telling everybody, by the way, I'm gentle. Did you see that over here where I was being gentle? No, just be known because you're gentle. Okay? Do not worry at all. See, Paul was paying attention. He understood Messiah's message. Do not worry at all. We can just put a period there and end it right there. Don't worry. Stop worrying. Don't worry. Be happy, y'all. All of a sudden, I'm going to start breaking into Bobby McFerrin. It took me a second to make sure I could get his name right in my head. Okay? Do you know I actually went to a sermon once at Sukkot where at the end of it, they played that song? And believe me, the church that we were going to, Worldwide Church of God, we were all shocked that they did this at a service, at a Holy Day service. But they closed the service, the message, the sermon with that song. Don't worry, be happy. He says, don't worry at all, but in every matter, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to Elohim. So he's giving us a process, okay? So first he says, don't worry at all. Just flat out an instruction, don't worry. But in every matter, by prayer and petition. So when you pray, and what is petition? It means that you're asking for something. Petition is usually a word when you're going before an authority to ask for something. So you're going before the Father and you're asking for things. He says, make sure you're doing it with thanksgiving. The model prayer, all the other things that we do. Start off by saying, thank you. Start off with the Dayenu. I appreciate what you've done for me up to this point, and if you do nothing else for me, that's fine. That would have been enough. However, if you might consider some things, I would petition you for these things. So you approach him with thanksgiving. Let your request be made known to Elohim with thanksgiving. Because some of you are in panic mode and you're just screaming out to Yah and you forget that he's done so much. And you will calm down quite a bit if you would pause for a second to figure out how to thank him before you just go before him screaming for your needs. Try to thank him. He says, if you can do these things, the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding, shall guard your hearts and minds through Messiah Yeshua. So he's telling you, this is sort of our process. Okay, you don't worry, because after all, if you start off with worrying, you're not going to get verse 7, the peace. Worried people don't have peace. They're complete opposites. There's no way to have peace and worry at the same time. He says, don't worry. Go before the Father if you have a situation. Go with thanksgiving. He says, let your request be known, but then the peace of Elohim, which surpasses all understanding, shall guard your hearts and your minds. So notice what he's saying here, though. He didn't say, don't worry, petition the Father, and he'll give you whatever you ask for. He says, and he will give you the peace about the situation, whether he gives you what you ask for or not. He's going to give you the peace, and that peace is going to guard the problem, the center of all your problems, your emotional center, the heart, and your mind. Because it's our wrong thoughts and attaching to those wrong thoughts, emotions, that gets us in all the trouble. He says, if you're worried, none of this is going to work. Here's the formula. First and foremost, stop worrying. Why should you stop worrying? Because you recognize that you have emunah, so worrying doesn't fit into that model. He has everything under control, so therefore my worrying is dumb. I'm not trying to pick on you if you worry. I'm just trying to say that's a thought you should have. It is foolishness to worry if you also believe he has everything under control. Those two thoughts cannot, stay in the same, you can't occupy the same space with those thoughts. If he's got everything under control, what are you worried about? Okay, you're doing something, and a person comes over to you because they think something's about to go wrong, and you say, it's okay, I've got it. If they have emunah, so to speak, with you, saying where they trust that if you say you have it, then they'll have peace. But if they keep going, no, because they're not trusting you. And they're going to try to drive from the back seat, so to speak. Not necessarily just when you're in a car, but I mean, they're going to try to give you guidance and instruction after you said, I got it. Don't worry, I've got it under control. Yahweh tells us, without any exception, that he has everything, always. Everything, always under control. Why couldn't you have peace? The only reason you don't have peace is because you don't believe that all the time. There are moments where you forget that that's true. There are moments where you forget that that's true. Always, without exception, he has everything under control. That's emunah. That you would believe that. And so he says here, look, don't worry at all, but you can go before the Father. You can pray and petition because he desires that you do that, but do it with thanksgiving. Part of thanksgiving is, Father, I thank you that I can come before you, and I also thank you that in doing so, I've done my part, and now I don't need to worry about it. I've brought it to you. Think about the words of Mordechai, very powerful words. When he said to Esther, if you don't do this thing, I'm not worried about it, but you'll have missed your opportunity because Yahweh will grab somebody else and it still will happen. Somebody will still come and intervene and do what needs to be done, and we will be delivered. But you, Esther, you were put in this place for such a time as this so that you could be the one doing this. But Mordechai had the emunah to say, and if you don't, that's going to cost you the opportunity of being the instrument. But he will raise up somebody else. It will happen. We will be. He's not going to let his people just all get slaughtered and be done. He had emunah. Okay? So if we do these things, he says, then the peace of Elohim. Yeshua said, peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. John 14:27, he says, the peace of Elohim, which surpasses understanding. In other words, it makes no sense to the world, to your flesh, how that peace should be there with this circumstances going on. The peace is beyond the ability to understand how you can have peace when all of this stuff is happening. He says, how do you have peace when you're Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're throwing you in the fire? How can you have peace when you're Daniel and they're throwing you into the lion's den? How can you have peace standing by the sea with Pharaoh behind you and the rocks and the cliffs and there's no place to go but the water? You don't have peace because you in your flesh, you can't see the solution. You can't see why this plays out in his plan somehow. And so you have this perceived threat, this perceived adverse consequence. That's where the worry comes from. He says, why are you worried? I've got this all under control. You shema, you covenant, you hear, you do, and you trust. That's really your life. Your whole life, to hear, to get the guidance and instruction to make sure you understand what you heard, to do it, and then to trust that that's all you need to do. Life is not really complicated. Our problem is that we don't get immediate results. We don't get the fruit we're looking for, that result we're looking for immediately. But our life is very simple, and the Torah is very simple. He says, my covenant with you doesn't require 400 pages, like sometimes a law being passed, a bill in Congress. It's very simple. If you will obey my voice. Now, bear in mind that the obeying the voice implies a huge amount of trust. It's that emunah that's required. If you will obey my voice, in other words, trusting that what I say will give you and bring you what you want ultimately. What do we want ultimately? To be happy, to have peace. I mean, it's really the two main things. I want to be happy and I want to have peace. If you are dejected, rejected, if you are depressed, if you are worried, fearful, anxiety, panic, stress, there's no peace there and you're not happy. But you want to be happy. He promises you will be happy. Maybe not now, maybe not next year, but you'll be happy. By the way, if you really wanted to understand this, you can be happy right now. It's a choice. James confuses us all when he says, count it all joy when you're in trials. What? That's not my sort of choice of thoughts when I'm in a trial. Hey, yay, I'm in a trial. And you could choose to be. You could choose to be joyful. Excuse me. Knowing that going through it will bear fruit. Peaceable fruit, really. So he says, and the peace of Elohim, which surpasses understanding, that peace, if you did the first processes, will then guard your heart and your mind. So from the rejoicing, from the petitioning, from the Shema and everything else that we're talking about, that's how you receive when Yeshua says, my peace I give to you. It's not as the world would give it. The world's going to give you peace by treaties and by whatever. He's going to give you peace through your life, through learning to trust Him, to trust the Father, to trust the Son, to trust the process, the protocol, the program, whatever word you want to call it. They have given you the system that works. I speak, you listen. That's what He says. If you do what I say, all things that you could ever want in your greatest, wildest dreams will be made manifest for you. Now, by the way, we can't accept that as a promise to us now because that was for corporate Israel in the land. And it is going to come again when He returns and restores all that. But we're hoping and trusting and being a part of that in the future. That's where we are in all of this. We're believing that if we do this now, we will be there then. They were told, if you do this now, you'll have it now. Go walk into the land, do what I've told you to do, and you will be fine. Deuteronomy 28 tells them all the blessings that they will have. Nobody to make them afraid and all these other things. But then again, we also have prophets that are telling us in the prophecies that there will be the time of the restoration when everybody will come up to the mountain and they'll, it says come, to Jerusalem, and they'll go up to Jerusalem, and they'll seek His ways, and they'll learn the Torah, and that is going to be a time when nobody will make you afraid. They'll beat the swords and the plowshares and the whole thing, right? This is important, that we know that this is about us preparing now so that we will be in the then when this all happens. We're no longer, because of and don't get mad at them, because of the mess-ups of our forefathers, we don't have the option of do it now and you receive it now. We're receiving the punishment of all that. And you know what? That's okay. You have to have peace with that. Don't get all mad at them. Some of you struggle and say, well, why did He wait till I was 73 to call me? Why did He wait till I was 52 to call me? Why did He wait? Because it's His choice. He had reasons. He doesn't have to explain Himself to you. But you have to trust it. You have to trust Him. And when you don't, you worry. When you don't have peace. When you don't, you have all kinds of other issues because you're allowing all of that bad ground stuff to happen. Rocks are coming in and weeds and thorns and all that stuff is coming into your garden. You're in the world, but you're not of the world. And that's really the key here as we're going through this. So he says, peace of Elohim that surpasses, easy for me to say, and the peace of Elohim which surpasses all understanding shall guard your hearts and minds through Yeshua Messiah. So he says it's going to do it through Yeshua Messiah. So in your Christian mind, you're thinking Messiah is just going to do all this stuff magically for you. Now in your Messianic Torah observant mind, you realize Yeshua is the way, the truth, and the life. He's the walking Torah. So he's referring to that your guarding of your minds through Yeshua is talking about the Torah, talking about the Word. When combined with the Ruach, which is the truth, the Spirit of truth, that is also Yeshua reminding you through that means by which that's now in you to help guard your mind and your heart. But it all comes through what you had to put in there. So he links that to Yeshua. For the rest, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is righteous, whatever is clean, whatever is lovely, whatever is of a good report, if there is any uprightness and if there is any praise, think on these. Oh, no, I want to send all my friends all the latest things that are going to scare the you-know-what out of them and panic them that the world is coming down around their ears next week. He says, no. I want you to focus on the noble, righteous, clean, lovely, good report, upright, praise, etc. And what you have learned, verse 9, and received and heard and saw in me. So now this is a discipleship language. He says, what you have learned, received, and heard and saw in me, practice these, and the Elohim of peace shall be with you. In other words, he's saying, I have demonstrated in front of your eyes what this looks like. That should be all of our goals. All of us should have that goal of being able to walk this out so that people will see it by observing it in you. And so, what kind of stuff are you posting on Facebook? Do you sound panicked, worried, or do you sound joyful and okay? I'm not talking like showing a callous disregard for the fact that the world is falling apart around our ears. And it is at times doing that. But can you have peace during that? Or are you going to go into the world's mindset, the world's heart, and freak out? Okay? He says, and what you have learned and received and heard and saw in me, practice these, and the Elohim of peace shall be with you. It is my goal and my hope that I can say those words at some point and feel confident that that was it. Now, I know I don't always present the best witness because I have, as Moses and others have had in time, anger issues and things, and I can't have issues where I don't have the gentleness that he talks about. And then we need to embrace that gentleness. And the other aspects of the fruit, being kind and gentle. Although I have to tell you, sometimes you need the kick in the you-know-what. And there's a place for that too. But it has to be done in a loving way. It has to be done in a way that doesn't show that you're just angry at the person. Okay? I mean, Yahweh had to give people the boot pretty good a few times. And we're out here in the dispersion because of that. And this is really important that we understand it. I think we'll end here, which is early, because I don't want to go to start the next thing, which is going to actually be too many verses. So we'll save that for next time. So I'll give you a little bit of a break here on a holy day, although we are going to open for the Afterburn question, so who knows what that'll take. That might take a little bit. But I'm hoping that we're getting this, okay? This worry thing needs to go. It's incredibly counterproductive to everything you're trying to do. It is the adversary. So, you were raised to fear the devil. You were raised to be afraid of this red, horn-tailed, whatever the Christian church has all got you afraid of. You want to be afraid of something? Be afraid of worry. Worry is going to destroy and undermine everything. It is an adversary. Okay, we call Hasatan the adversary. Worry is the adversary to what you're doing. In the kingdom, the key is emunah. All right? You must have that full faith, belief, trust that everything is under control. Everything is going to be fine, even though it may... Look, he tells us everything is going to get to the point where if he doesn't intervene, the whole world would basically be nobody left alive. And he also tells us that's okay. In other words, it will be okay. That is going to happen, but I am going to intervene before everybody's dead, and ultimately it's going to play out and everything will be okay. So he already tells you it will go to a place none of us can even imagine yet. It's going to get to a place the world has never seen, and yet somehow that's going to be okay. It's going to ultimately be okay. It won't be okay that people are suffering and dying, but it will ultimately come and bear the fruit that he wants it to bear. And you have to believe that. Well, actually, you don't have to believe that, but if you want to be covenanted and everything else, you have to believe that. That's the covenant. And the question is, do you believe it or not? Because a thing like this little pandemic virus has got everybody flipped out. This is not the tribulation. This is not a plague. It's a virus. If it were a plague, it would have a 100-fold mortality rate problem compared to where it is now. Okay, everybody would be dying. Then it would be more like a plague. The plagues of Egypt affected everybody in a much worse way than that. This is not a plague. It is a pandemic. It is a virus. But if this is making you worry, what about when things really go bad? What are you going to do? You're going to have, what I hope you're going to do is have emunah. Amen? Amen. Father, we come before you, and we want to really appreciate so much and thank you for sharing with us the written word that came from you and through the living word, Yeshua, as was inspired into the writers of the book, so that we would be able to understand how we can have this peace that he gives us and not as the world gives. That we can have the peace that goes and surpasses beyond understanding. That we can understand how to become good ground and bear good fruit, so that we can develop true emunah, that we could develop true faith and belief and trust that everything, without exception, serves your purpose either because you cause it or allow it to be. And so, Father, we want to thank you. We want to praise you. We want to ask that you would help us to truly embrace, understand, and let take root these things from your word so that we can apply them in our lives and just grow that much more as we transform into the image of Yeshua. So, Father, we thank you, praise you, and give you all glory and honor as we come before you. In the name above all names, Yeshua our Messiah. Amen. 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 Okay. Amen. So this we call the Afterburn. So if you have comments or questions, you can start typing them in, and Manny will go ahead and start noting them. Michael's got a question already. So if you're here, I'll just go ahead and repeat what he says when he asks it. So go ahead.
I just had a thought when you were talking about the ground. And I'm actually one of the guys that are dealing with the garden and stuff. So if you don't break up the ground, it won't even receive the water. The top, it's so hard, it won't even receive water.
Okay, so he made a comment. When we were talking about tilling the ground or breaking up the ground, he said that he's one of those guys that's been working on his garden since he's been home. And he said, look, if you don't break up the ground, it won't even receive water. The water will just run right across and off. It will not absorb the water. You've got to grind it up and till it up and break it up so that it can receive the water. And if we understand water, we're talked about in Scripture, it's often talked about the water of the Word. And so that Word cannot be, received in ground that's untilled, that you haven't, broken it up so that it can be absorbed into the ground. Excellent. Manny, just let me know when you've got enough and you're ready. All right, we'll put the headset on and start shooting them out.
Okay. I figure while you're answering the first one, more will come. So first one I have here is Matthew 13:23. It says, Rabbi, is Matthew 13:23 connected to the parable of the talents in Matthew chapter 25? Is the word /seed like the talents, so we are responsible to produce with his Torah and will be judged by our fruits?
Yes and no. I mean, look, he uses different metaphors with similar devices for the metaphor. So I would say yes. I'm sure there are certain things that are similar, but he was trying to make a different point in the parable of the talents that he's making here. Okay, this one has to do with the dirt, okay, and the type of ground to receive. The parable of the talents has to do with once I give you something, what do you do with it? All right, so that one's more about what we do with what we receive. This is our ability to receive and what will cause us a problem receiving. So Matthew 13 is more talking about the things that interfere with our receiving in the first place. And then what you do with it afterwards is what's being talked about in the other teaching. Okay?
Okay, next one is MTOI Urbana. Question on Matthew 18:23. The prior three conditions don't have a teacher and structure to ward off those situations. The ground is cultivated, tended, and worked by a teacher, which helps it bear the fruit.
Okay, say it one more time. What verse?
Matthew 18:23.
18, okay. No, I think you must be thinking of 13:23. Okay, because 18 is a whole different thing.
Probably. Thanks, Gary.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, look, you have to do all of these things. The teacher gets involved not in the tilling the ground, not in doing all the work you need to do. Now, the teacher, this teaching I just gave you, if you allowed it, might have tilled a whole bunch of ground in you. If you allow the teaching to do that, but you've got to do that part. The main part is that are you allowing a teacher to give you the information, help you with the understanding on how to till the ground, giving you things that, I say stuff a lot that people it just rides right through and just runs off their back like it was not even said, in one ear and out the other. Other people, it gets in there and it tears up a whole bunch of good stuff. But that's you who decides how you receive that. But what I brought the teacher in for was when it came to the first part, which it says about understanding. If you don't understand, you need to get the teacher. And I have to promise you that if you don't have this understanding yet, if you haven't figured this out yet, you will figure out eventually that there is, by design, only so much you can figure out yourself. By design, okay? Not because you're stupid, not because you're not smart enough, not because you're not talented enough, not because you're not learned enough, or whatever you want. It's because he designed it that way. He designed for the structure to be done with teachers. And so go listen to the teaching called, Learn and Teach the Torah. And I got to remember the names, there's too many teachings. Learn and Teach the Torah, which is a teaching that makes a case for there being Torah teachers. Okay? So please, don't fall into, this is the problem with unlearned, untrained people out there all running around saying, well, we don't need a teacher anymore. We all have the Holy Spirit, and then it just teaches us directly. And that just doesn't work, and it's not true, and that's why everybody's all confused. And they will do this. And the funniest one was a video I watched of a group saying that very strongly, and then spending a 2-hour video, spending an hour attacking that we don't need teachers, and then the next hour answering everybody's questions. Why wasn't the answer to every question, just go home and pray and the Ruach will tell you? That should have been their answer to every question. It was incredible to watch them answer questions for an hour. I just laughed. Look, hypocrisy is probably one of the most common diseases we all suffer from, okay? We don't need teachers. But by the way, what are your questions? I'll answer all your questions. But we don't need teachers. The Ruach will answer all your questions, but ask them anyway and I'll answer them for you. That's just dumb. If the Ruach answered all your questions, why are you on YouTube searching 57 videos for answers? Because he didn't design it that way. You know who he gives the answers? The teachers. Why? Because they need to have the answers to do the teaching. And by the way, just because somebody has a platform doesn't make them a teacher. Okay, just because someone is teaching doesn't make them a teacher. Just because someone is preaching doesn't make them a preacher. Just someone who's singing doesn't make them a singer. Okay, someone playing the piano doesn't make them a pianist. Someone playing guitar doesn't make them a guitar player. Just because they're doing it doesn't make them anointed and appointed to do that. Some of you take food and put it in a skillet and cook it, doesn't make you a chef. Some of you have to warn people before they eat. Hey, I don't want to kill you here, just so you know. Or some people are warning people about your spouse. Stop doing that. That's not honoring to your spouse. Whichever spouse is doing the cooking. You know what I'm talking about. you've had an experience with people. Look, when you hear the praise team play, you're hearing some really gifted things. When you hear the songs that they're writing, you're hearing gifted things. There are other people that make music. But you know the difference. Okay? So you're looking for those who are scripturally understood as teachers. And they will have answers for you. And not because they're smarter. Simply because they're given the answers because it's their job. Okay? I don't think I'm smarter than any of you. I accept that it's my job, though, to answer questions. And by the way, I can tell you, which I don't, again, this is that experience thing where I couldn't explain this to you unless you were me. But I can't tell you the percentage, but it's pretty high, of the answers that are given to me as I'm saying them to you. Do you understand what I'm saying? I don't know how much to explain that. But that's part of the whole reason why I'm never afraid of a Q&A. A lot of teachers will never do this because they need to go look it up and study whatever they have, because this works the way I work, is that I get a question, and either I've answered it before, but often, whatever the first time I've gotten the question, unless it's a very basic thing that really is just because someone's so brand new, any of you could have answered the question. But, I mean, the challenging questions, the first time I answer them, I don't have the answer until he gives it to me as I'm saying it. That's because you needed me to have that answer, because that's the structure. Okay? And that's the only reason I had the answer and you didn't. Not because I'm better, smarter, more whatever. It's because that's my job. Okay? All right, Manny, go ahead.
Okay, next one is also in Matthew 13:23. Daphne wants to know, I've never noticed yield before. I thought the end result was bearing fruit. Could the yield be the amount of people who are helped by the fruit you bear?
Well, it's simply the yield is basically the amount, okay? We talk about with crops, the yield is, how many bushels or how many pounds or how many whatever it is of the thing that you're producing. So here it's just telling you how much fruit will be produced. It'll produce 100-fold. You can just put the word produce in here. He said, and who indeed bears fruit and produces sometimes 100-fold results. In other words, they're really going to produce a lot of this fruit, whatever that is. He doesn't give a specific idea of what specific fruit he's talking about here. Some will yield or produce 30-fold. Some will produce 60-fold, etc. It's just it's a production level. So think of it this way. When you're new, you may be just producing at a small level of maybe 5 or 10, orders of magnitude or whatever that would be, okay, whatever it is. But as you get better at this, in other words, you're walking it out, it's becoming congruent with who you are, you're becoming more vertically aligned, you're going to start bearing fruit on a much more highly productive level. All right? Let's say I've taught you how, I'll give you an example, kind of a good example I'm thinking. All right? I've taught you how to make a set of seat. It may take you an hour to make your whole first set of 4 seat. That's not a long time necessarily. Let's say it took you an hour. Then we'll get a point where you can make a whole set in 10 minutes. So your productivity rate is increased by what? By practice and developing the skill sets and the muscle memory and all the other things so that you can do stuff without thinking about it as much. It becomes more automatic. And so, yes, you're going to produce fruit. But the yield is going to be dependent on how much you are putting into consistently producing. If I've got a factory that's open every other day for 5 hours, it's going to produce so much. If I turn that factory into producing every day for 5 hours, it's going to produce more. If I turn it into every day for 10 hours, it's going to produce more. In other words, the more you're actively doing it consistently, the more productive it's going to be. So what is the fruit? It doesn't say specifically. We talked a little bit about the fruit of the Ruach, but it's about, again, don't take it into a Christian mindset about the people that you will be affecting in some way. It just that means that whatever it is going to be yielding more. So let's say you're developing more love, you're going to be yielding more, producing more love. More joy, you'll produce more joy. More peace, more patience. Okay? And so think of it from that point of view. All right?
Okay, somebody else would like to know what's a proper definition of gentleness? Philippians 4:5.
It has to do with when you are dealing with people, okay, there's the tone, the approach that has a softness metaphorically in how it's received. In other words, I can come and approach you, and I can walk nice and easy and softly towards you, or I can kind of be storming towards you. One will feel a lot more gentle. Then when I do get there, my facial expressions, my body language, and my tone of voice can feel either harsh or gentle. The tone, the volume, the loudness, the speed. So if I go over to you and I start talking like this, or if I come over to you and say, excuse me, can I talk to you for a second? The second one is gentle. And I may be giving you the exact same information, but it can be delivered in a gentle way or a harsh way. Okay? All right, so hopefully that made sense. And you don't want to hear me when I do the other one.
Nobody does.
No. And nobody should have to.
Okay, Renaissance would like to know regarding Philippians 4:6-8. How does verse 8 look in reality? It seems it should be easy, but what does that look like in general?
In verse 8,
Yes.
the things that you are to meditate on. Okay, Philippians 4:8. For the rest, brothers, what is true, what is noble, what is righteous, what is clean. Think on these. All right, so, okay, I think I have a fairly simple answer for this. Let's use my process that I give about thoughts, emotions, actions, habits, destinies. He's saying specifically to think on these things. Okay? In other words, to meditate on it, to think about them, to dwell on them. All right? Because remember, it's the things that you dwell on, not just a random thought that you have for a moment, but that you dwell on that eventually get emotions attached. So if you're thinking about things that are scary and worrisome and panicky and everything else, you're going to attach those emotions of worry and panic, etc., to the information that you had received, that you were thinking about. But if you're thinking about things that are true and noble and righteous and clean and lovely and of good report, you're going to have those good emotions, which, by the way, happen to match the fruit of the Spirit. You'll have peace and joy and love and all that other good stuff. Taking every thought into captivity. So you're watching the news, and there's information about whatever adverse, negative thing is happening in the world. Don't think about those things. Take the information, decide what you're going to do with it, and then let it go. But when there's things that are lovely and of good report and noble and true, etc., think about those things. Dwell on them. Think about them. And let them come into the heart where the emotions are. The other information is just to be responded to with an action of some sort. So I'm watching the news, there's some horrible things happening, and all my thought is there anything I need to do with that information? If there is, I do it. If there's not, I don't. And that's it. I don't get emotional about it. I don't dwell on it to get emotional. Okay? All right. We got a report on the TV and everything else that there was a tornado warning the other night around 11:30. Okay? So I took the information. No panic, no worry. I said, okay, we're going to watch for this, see what's happening, and then we'll go down into our shelter. We have a very bomb shelter-ish or whatever, a tornado shelter basement. We've got a very thick concrete wall, so it was a safe place to go for a tornado. The rest of the house may get ripped off, but I mean, we have the safety down there. And I told the family, I'll make the call and we'll go down. But until then, there's nothing to worry about. It'll either hit us or not. I'm not going to dwell on it. Other people would be sitting there like, oh, I hope it doesn't hit us. I wonder if it's going to hit us. I hope it doesn't hit us. I wonder if it's going to hit us. I hope it doesn't hit us. I wonder. Let me slow that down for you. I hope it doesn't hit us. I wonder if it's going to hit us. I hope it doesn't hit us. Because now they're dwelling on that. They're thinking about that. I took the information, told everybody in the house. I said, I got everybody down. I said, okay, come here. We're going to be paying attention. We're listening outside because there are telltale signs of the tornadoes nearby. We're going to watch for the news, and then we'll go into the shelter. And there came to a time when I said, we're going down to the shelter. I didn't think that the tornado was necessarily going to hit, but there was enough going on that it said, look, we've got another 30 minutes or whatever was going to be of this warning. Let's just go down there and we'll wait the 30 minutes out. And it's information if you're not meditating it on and letting emotion get attached. And information needs to be acted upon. So, for example, I find out that the tornadoes are hitting Chattanooga, but they're not hitting Cleveland. Okay? So now I can take that information and say, okay, my family is safe. But I also have people in Chattanooga that I need to maybe check on, and I could talk to my staff and team and make sure we're checking on people. That's something that we could do, which we did. We contacted everybody we could about the tornadoes as they were coming through late that night. Now, there's no panic. There's no worry. There's action. Information, action. Okay? Information meditated on goes information, emotion, action. You see that we have a different process there. Information, action. Information that's good, noble, true, righteous is dwelled upon, emotion, and then action. Does that make sense? You see the difference? So information, you have to decide what to do with it. Do I meditate on it and allow emotion to get attached to it, or do I just do something with it? Okay? What do I do with that? Is there anything that I do? There was a major earthquake that took out whatever, another country that had something, or a tsunami. I can sit there and go, okay, information, action. I can pray. I can pray for those people. I can pray for the situation. I can take an action. Okay? But I have to make sure that I'm being careful with the emotions. Because there's nothing more I can do. If you do everything you can do, there's no need to get another emotion involved. And I'm not trying to get you to be cold and uncaring. You should still have empathy and sympathy and those kind of things. Emotions can motivate you in the right direction. That's what he was saying, in case you saw me turn over this way. All right? But just understand that this, in reality, now, of course, when you said in reality, I was going to mess with you, and I didn't, because we're not in reality. See, in reality, all we'd be doing is verse 8. Because there wouldn't be anything else to meditate on, because reality is going to be the kingdom. But in this, whatever this is, a shadow of reality, in this place, you have to actually focus your mind. That's what he's saying. Focus your mind on these things, and you'll have peace. If you take the other information, the adverse information, and focus on it, you won't have peace. Okay, next question.
Next question. Well, I think you hit on a lot of what this next question was. That Olivia and Jan Hoffman had a very similar question regarding the exact same verses. The only angle is she wanted to know if there was any life coaching advice you can add.
I think I just gave that, so
okay.
That's fine. Okay,
Perfect.
So bear in mind, look, I don't want you to think about from an empathetic or sympathetic point of view. I could, if I were, interested in doing so, I could look up and see the genocidal stuff going on, children dying in different places, the extreme poverty, earthquakes, tsunamis, and floods. I could look that up every day and find it everywhere in the world, and I would just be nothing but depressed. Because I knew there's nothing I could do about those things. And so I'm not saying don't be aware of what's happening in the world, but if you're going to meditate on these things, I don't want you to think, well, I took the information, realized there wasn't nothing I could do, so I just, who cares? It's not that it's a who cares. It's a recognition that if you start to meditate on these things, it would be completely debilitating. There is absolutely horrific things happening every day somewhere in the world. Horrific stuff. And if I just focused on that, how could I function? Now, I can be aware of it. It's information I need to know. I'm monitoring, are we in the tribulation? How bad are things really getting? Where are these things that are happening? How many people are being affected? So I'm trying to be aware, but I don't want to allow myself to emotionally be too drawn into it because it could really cause a terrible place emotionally to realize how awful a place this place is that we live in. And it is, at times, horrifically awful. Okay? Next question.
Okay, another question actually regarding Philippians 4, 6, and 7. They're asking, shalom is then the result of obedient prayer. Is that correct? Do you recommend half-hour daily prayers?
Okay, so I don't know that I would word it that way. I do recommend half-hour daily prayer. I also recommend, specifically when you say half-hour, I recommend that mostly you're sitting quiet and just letting him, have that peace come upon you, so to speak. I don't think you need to talk a whole lot. All right? In the Orthodox, there's one segment of the Orthodox that really promotes what they call hitbadadut, which is the idea of just meditative prayer, where you just get quiet, alone, and allow yourself to connect vertically. Okay? And that's something that's encouraged to be done 30 to 60 minutes a day. And the one rabbi who really promotes it the most, he says he's been doing it 30 minutes. Actually, I think he does an hour a day for, 40, 50 years he's been doing it. He's an older guy at this point, and he's been doing it most of his life. And he attributes almost all of the joy and peace that he has to the fact that he does this, where he takes that time to get quiet. Now, but that's not the way I would have worded it for these verses. What he's saying in these verses are, look, once you've laid whatever concern you have in prayer at his feet, you then you release any concern about it. It's in his hands, and so then you can be with peace. You have peace from that. So his peace is not coming from the praying. Peace is coming from the releasing. You gave it over to him, and now you have peace. Okay? If somebody brings me, if my daughter were to bring me or my son were to bring me something that they're struggling with, and they hand it to me and I say, don't worry, I'll handle it, I take care of it, they don't have to worry about it anymore. I've got it. I may not tell them how I'm going to handle it or what I'm going to do, but they can have complete confidence that if I've taken it, they don't need to own that problem anymore. So when you give it over to the Father, you don't need to own that problem anymore. That doesn't mean that there's nothing for you to do. But the emotional part, the fear, the worry, you don't have to worry about it. You know he's going to allow it to play out or cause it to play out in the way it needs to play out. But you still need to do your part. Whatever he shows you, you need to change something, stop doing, start doing, whatever it is, but you still need to do your part. But the peace comes, he says, don't worry at all, but in every matter by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your request be known to Yahweh, and let it go. The emotional part, let go the fear, the thing that was causing you to need to go before him. Aren't there things that come up in your life all the time that you never go before him and you just handle? So obviously, if you're going before him, it's something that really concerns you. And you're really concerned that you don't know what to do and you don't know how to handle it, and you're afraid it's going to go really bad. So you go before him. Well, then when you go before him, release that negative emotion. Okay? Now, from a life coaching point of view, I was thinking about Janet's question. Look, if the way I would tell people with this whole thing in verse 8, if people are coming up to you with things that are not true, not noble, not righteous, not clean, not lovely, and of good report, don't receive it. In other words, cut them off, say, hey, I appreciate you want to share that, but I really am not interested. Don't keep allowing that stuff to be given and sent in your direction. Don't watch the things on TV, don't watch the things on YouTube and video that are going to be not of these categories. And then the other side of it is actively seek the noble, the true, the clean, the lovely, the good report. Okay, that's the life coach part of that. All right, next question.
Okay, Pete and Brenda Lem, actually, I'm going to go back to Philippians 4, 6. He had a message. Rabbi's teaching led me to see such a strong link between Philippians 4, 6 and Psalm 146, 1 and 2, as well as 46, 10.
Okay, 146, 1 and 2, and what was the other one?
I'm sorry, 46, 1 and 2.
Oh, 46, 1 and 2.
And then 46, 10.
Okay. Elohim is our refuge and strength, a help in distress and soon found. Therefore we do not fear, though the earth reels and mountains topple into the heart of the seas. Let its okay, then verse 10. Be still and know that I am Yahweh. I am Elohim. I am exalted among. Yeah, exactly. Okay? All right? Elohim is your refuge and strength in these terrible times of distress and whatever moment you have of distress. And you need to be still. Look, go back to the fear of Yahweh teaching. I covered this very extensively in that teaching. Look, that was what Moses told them at the sea. He said, be still and see the deliverance. Okay? In Deuteronomy. So in Exodus 14, I believe it is. So, I've been off by like one chapter all day today, so let me just double check where I'm trying to get you. Okay, Exodus 14:13. All right. All right, what else you got?
Okay, another one from UC Renegade. Philippians 4:8. Does this mean things like sports, movies, TV shows, et cetera, which are generally not what Paul said we should not engage in?
No. Look, this is not about just all things that you're experiencing. It has to do with those things with which you think on, that you think on. Okay, so you had a problem at work, and you're thinking about it, and you're thinking about it, and you're Facebooking about it, and you're calling your friends about it, and in other words, it's locked into your thoughts now. You had something happen with your spouse. You had something happen with your children. You had something happen, some negative thing you became aware of that somebody else had happened, but now it's disturbed your thoughts and you can't get it out of your head. It's like a song that you just can't get out of your head. So you're thinking on it. Watching a sports game is not the problem. If your team lost and now all you're going to do is be angry all day and fuss about it and whine about it, and that's what we're having the problem with. The thought turning into an emotional place. The negative thought, the adverse thought, okay, the not noble, not righteous, not clean, not good report thought. So it's not saying you can't listen to music and watch TV and watch movies and everything else. It's simply saying is that once you're finished doing it, you don't need to have it locked into your head that you're thinking on it. Okay, change the word in some translations has meditate on these. In other words, have your thoughts to dwell on these things. Your mind, dwelling on these thoughts. That it stays and resides in your head, that it's now owns space in your head. Release it out of your head. Okay? I'm watching the game. As you all know, the Dallas Cowboys is my team, okay? And they lose. I'm not happy about it. I let it go, and I move on. And then my friends tried to tease me about it because they don't want me to let it go. And I can either let it stir me up, or I could say, yep, they lost. They were not the better team today. Okay? So, you can have that with anything. It's how you handle and then release, or you handle and dwell upon. He wants you to dwell upon good things, clean things, true things, noble things, not negative things, things that cause you to worry. Remember, this is all connected to verse 6. He's trying to help you understand about things that make you worry. Don't think about those things and dwell on them. Dwell on things that bring peace. The good stuff, the clean stuff, the true stuff, the good report, the noble things. Okay, next.
Rabbi Tom, Philippians 4:9 and 1 Corinthians 11:1 shows that we must look to the fourfold ministry as our example and mentor. We thank you for being an example of what we can look up to.
I appreciate that, Rabbi Tom. So he's talking about where Paul is saying, to do the things that he has shown them. And then, of course, in 1 Corinthians 11, it says, become imitators of me as I also am of Messiah. Okay, so that's 1 Corinthians 11:1. So that is the goal, or should be the goal, of everybody with a microphone, everybody with a responsibility for a group of people, everybody that's shepherding, teaching, or doing any of the fivefold things. Those people should have the goal of being worthy to be imitated. Because that's part of your role, is to be discipling, and discipling is an imitation process. Okay? Next. Is there...
Another one. Rabbi, would you say Philippians 4:8, thinking leads to yielding the fruit in Galatians 5:22?
You can certainly have a connection there. But the Galatians 5:22 needs to be something that you are embracing regardless of what you're dwelling on or what's coming into your mind. You have to, look, love, joy, peace, patience, etc. Those things, we have them when everything is great. So from that point of view, I would say, no, it doesn't necessarily connect. Okay? When your life is just chugging along nice and happy, you've got love and joy and peace and gentleness and all that other stuff. Then let something adverse pop into that mix and see if you can maintain the love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, etc., etc. Okay? Can you maintain that? That's the challenge. All right, so here, I'll give you an example. Okay, so the 9 aspects of the fruit. So we're told to love love an enemy. Can you love your enemy? You're not in a mood to love anybody. When an enemy comes in, you're mad, you hate, you're this, you're that, you're angry, you want to do harm, whatever. I mean, enemy. We're talking enemy here. She says love an enemy. Joy in a trial, peace when all hell is breaking loose around you and you're worried and panicky about everything. Kindness. Can you be kind to those that you really don't want to be kind to or not being kind to you? Can you be, goodness? Trustworthy? Are you trustworthy in all situations? Is there gentleness in all situations? Do you have self-control in all situations? You have to be asking yourself, with all of the 9 aspects of the fruit, do you have these things in all situations? Look, when you're meditating on all that good stuff, it's easy to have the aspects of the fruit. So I guess I'm going to change my answer to no. No, those things are not what yield the fruit. The fruit has to be able to come through in all situations. Those things are to help you to deal with the worry. If you meditate on the things that can cause worry, remember, worry is based on a perception that something adverse is about to happen. There's going to be a consequence or circumstance or harm that you think may come to you or those you care about. And so you worry. And he's telling you, don't focus on that stuff. Stuff like that happens whether you worry about it or not. He says, don't focus on that. Focus on the good stuff. We're all going to die. That's something to worry about, I suppose. Well, but wait, if we do what we're supposed to do, we're all going to be in the kingdom. Well, that's something to be excited about. So you could look at it one way or the other, right? You could look at, I'm alive. And then you could go, wait a minute, but that's the number 1 cause of death. It's not the coronavirus and it's not heart disease. Life is the number 1 cause of death. So you can always be focused on the fact that you're going to die, or you can focus on the fact that you're alive. Which one do you want to focus on? Okay? What else?
Okay, I have a few more here. These are going to be more general questions. Steve Waffle, comment and / question. Some delay in weeding out our lives because it hurts more than remaining the same. Can you please cover that aspect?
Say it one more time.
Some delay in weeding out our lives because it hurts more than remaining the same.
Look, we are, as human beings, we are, again, it goes back to that worry thing, right? If we perceive that where we are now is going to be less threatening, less challenging than changing, we are going to be very reluctant to change. Change is an unknown. Even if the known is already something we don't like, it's still less scary to us and less worrisome because we know it. We're familiar with it. So a lot of people don't make the changes and adjustments and things because it's an unknown. I don't know what it will be like. And that's hard. Okay? But if they have the trust and the emunah and they can just leave it to him, then you make the changes. I got a bunch of people who are like, well, I don't know what it's going to be like when I stop going to church on Sunday and my husband or my wife is going to be all, well, I know that's scary, but you're going to have to make that decision at some point. You can't be the lukewarm sitting on the fence, with your foot in both worlds. You're in the world, but you're not of the world. So you don't have to be in the places the world likes to hang out. you have to make those tough choices. Go ahead, next question or comment.
Okay, another.
Are we almost done?
We've got about 5 more.
Oh, let's see if we can get through them quickly.
Okay. Another person's asking. Isham is asking. I have thorns that are choking my walk. How does one get rid of the thorns, these chains that are binding me? I am aware of my sins, but yet I can't break away from the loop.
This is why you need structure. You need counsel. Because with counsel, you can have somebody who can help you unravel what it is about the things you're struggling with and why you keep struggling with them, even though you, on one level, you want to be rid of them. Okay? So it takes a counselor to help you dig deep enough to figure out where the underlying disconnect is that's creating the problem. Because you have an incongruent process there. You don't want to be doing it, but you're still doing it. Okay? Part of you says, I don't want to do this anymore. The other part of you is still doing it. So that takes counsel. Which is, again, why we need structure. And by the way, counsel only works if you're going to trust the counsel. Okay? Go ahead, next.
Cynthia would like to know, could we look at tilling, I guess. Could we look at tilling as unlearning what we had been taught?
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in the tilling. Look, you're taking everything that's in that ground that doesn't belong there. So unlearning what was already taught is part of that. So I would say what you were taught is probably less rocks and more weeds, and it's choking things out. So it's more that level of the weeds that's just not leaving room. But yes, tilling it will help you, get rid of all those things.
And Angela just had a quick question. What is the difference between emunah and shalom?
Well, emunah is your trust, faith, and belief. Shalom is what you get as a fruit of emunah. Okay, shalom is the peace that you get because you have emunah. So shalom is a fruit of emunah.
Beautifully said.
Okay.
Steve Waffle had another comment question. Some delay. Oh, no, I think he said the same thing. He just repeated it. All right, Bride's had a question. Rabbi, do you think it's safe to say that this is an Isaiah 26, 3 and 4, that we should be asking him who he is more than what he can do for us because we can't trust who we don't know?
Okay, I'm not sure I understood the way that question kind of came across a little discombobulated, but Isaiah 26, 3 and 4, the one steadfast of mind you guard in perfect peace, for he trusts in you. Trust in Yahweh forever, for in Yahweh is a rock of ages. Great verses to make the point I've been making, yes. So I'm not sure how that question all came about, but
I think it's probably the way I read it, that we should be asking him who he is more than what he can do for us because we can't trust who we don't know.
okay, I'll agree with that 100%.
Awesome. Okay, last one I have here. Olivia Ramirez, is it possible to have a false peace? For instance, when Christians say they have peace of Messiah, since they are not covenanted but don't even realize it.
Absolutely. Absolutely, there's no doubt about it. And actually, that's part of what we're going to see in the places where there's verses where it says, and people say peace, peace, when, there's no peace. There's the world's way of producing peace. There's all of the religions of the world's ways of thinking that they're producing peace, and then there's the truth. Okay, and that's the difference. Look, and again, I hope everybody appreciates, and this is not to pat myself on the back at all, but, for those that are out there, as you will hear, attack me and the ministry, etc., I mean, how many ministries will sit after a teaching and just take all the questions until they're done generally and that kind of thing? And I don't do that to raise myself up. This is because that's my heart. My wife will tell you that ever since we started ministry, I realized that especially at the beginning when people hadn't heard anything I'd ever taught, I realized I was throwing stuff out there that people just really never heard before. And I got a lot of crickets and deer in the headlights looks from people. And I realized I needed to give them an opportunity to ask, to make sure they understood. Because I wasn't sure they received what I said the way I intended it. So I said, well, feel free to ask. And we've done that now for 20 years or plus. This is the way we've always done the ministry, because I'm not always sure based on now we don't have a lot of people in the room here, so I can't see the faces responsive, but a lot of times in the room, I'm getting a lot of, this look of like, okay, I'm just starting to process what you just said, and there's just a lot there, and I don't know what to do with it yet. And then I want to make sure that people actually understood it the way I intended it. Because you have to remember, the hardest thing we do as human beings is try to communicate from one person to the other what we fully intend to say. Just because I said it doesn't mean you received it the way I intended it. We see this throughout the scriptures. Yahweh said a lot of things. A lot of people have lots of different ideas of what he intended when he said it. And so that's tough. It's confusing. So I hope that's appreciated by everyone. I do appreciate the opportunity because I do want you to understand, because that is the number one goal of the teacher, is to give you the information and have you understand it so that you can do it and that you can ultimately transform and conform into Yeshua's image and be in the kingdom. Amen? Amen. Okay. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up. If everybody would go ahead and rise, Manny will go ahead and close us in prayer.
Abba, Father, we thank you so much for allowing us to gather here today via technology, to listen to your word, to listen to what you have to tell us. I know there was a lot of people struggling with fear, struggling with issues that we covered today. Thank you so much, Father. We're so grateful for the trials that you're leading us through only to make us better people. Abba, thank you for speaking to us through your Torah, through this ministry, through this teacher. Allow us to really meditate on what we heard here today and to really search out your word, your scriptures, that you may continue to speak to us and really allow us to write it on our own hearts, in our own minds. Thank you so much for what you do, and help us to attain that peace that surpasses all understanding by having the proper fear of you. Thank you so much, Abba. We thank you, and we're just grateful. Thank you for this life. Thank you for the ability to walk this out according to your will. In Yeshua's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. All right. That's going to close it up here. I'll just wave. I just feel like if we bring anybody up here, people are going to be thinking, well, why come we didn't get to be up here? And there's only the camera people and the sound people and Manny and on the desk there from the praise team. But tell you what, I'll just have Rebbitzin and my family come up here. That'll be good. Yeah, come on up. Stephen's coming too. I'll just have you guys come up here, and we can wave to everybody. Come on in. All right. Okay, so we're going to say on the count of three, we're going to tell everybody, Chag Sameach, okay, because this is the last holy day of Unleavened. We're going to say Chag Sameach, and we'll say Shavua Tov, and we'll tell them we love them. Okay, here we go. On three. 1, 2, 3. Chag Sameach!